Chapter 601 Workshop's Bounty White Robe Gains Fame. Exchange Jingshin fruits for fish? Lu Buqin was somewhat skeptical. Right? Kong Jincheng said. He signed a blood covenant, willing to toil in the eastern continent for profit. But instead of using the treasures he's gotten for himself, he's exchanging them for detoxifying fish. It seems like it's to get an antidote for his old partner. So it seems, this old man Wei is still quite the romantic. What romantic or not, he's already 96 years old. And he was injured in his youth. Even if he consumed Jingshin fruits, could he really hope to break through to above true power in just a short decade or so? It's nothing more than wanting to spend his golden years peacefully with his wife. Heh, you do have a point there. But speaking of which, shouldn't we also try to find some detoxifying fish? I've already tried. Kong Jincheng sighed. I've been squatting by this river for over half a month. I really don't know how that lad managed to find them as soon as he arrived. He must also be a master at fishing. Hee hee. Lu Buqin interrupted. We should quickly dispose of the wolf's body and then head down the mountain, or else if the smell of blood draws a high-ranking demon beast, we'll be in trouble. After leaving Chilliang Mountain, Chun Sansi and Zhao Zhao split up to take care of different tasks. He had her go to the tea house to tend the horses and wait. He himself went to deal with some matters before planning to leave this place. Fish and Dragon Collection. True to its name, fish and dragon mingled together. The shops in the bustling area of the workshop are either backed by cultivation families or are directly owned by various sects. The Fish and Dragon Collection, however, mostly consists of loose cultivators' booths, much more like a vegetable market. The entrance fee is pricey, costing 5 spirit crystals. After paying, Chun Sansi was able to enter. Come and take a look. Top-quality second-hand magic artifacts. 99% as good as new. Clearing out stock of good elixir pills. Buy 5 get a fasting pill free. Need a spiritual pet? Looking for a woman? I have ones with a spirit root. Compared to the shop areas, the market inside was incredibly noisy and chaotic, filled with the shouting of cultivators. Booths of all sorts lined the sides, with a few members of the law enforcement hall occasionally passing through on patrol. Chun Sansi started searching along the streets.
Cultivation technique.
Any from the 5 elements cultivation method would do. This was his second main purpose for coming to the Sky-Water continent, aside from heavenly materials and earthly treasures. His talent was too poor. He urgently needed a specific cultivation technique to enhance his spirit root talent. However, after making a couple of rounds, there were few sellers of cultivation techniques, and those that were available were of the same common variety as the 5 elements decision, or they were incomplete and surprisingly expensive. Forget it. Let's sell what's on hand first. Chun Sansi pondered and found a corner in the market. Along the sides of the market, there were many empty wooden tables. Any loose cultivator who paid could set up a stall, and of course he was no exception. He spread out all the elixir pills he had and kept the magic artifacts of his spoils of war hidden, fearing that it would cause trouble if they were recognized. But keeping the items on him wasn't really useful either. First, he decided to sell the elixir pills and then think of another plan. There would surely be some kind of black market nearby. Taoist, do you have any fasting pills? Yes. After a round in the market, Chun Sansi had a general understanding of the prices, which were a bit cheaper than in the shops, but he saw no need to lower his prices further. He answered, Mine are of fine quality, 2 spirit crystals each. That expensive? That's the same price as 100 Treasure Tower. They're all fine quality. If you don't believe it, you can check for yourself. No need to look, why bother? How are you selling the fasting pills? For 2 spirit crystals. Buy 2 get 1 free. How about it? Forget it. As a result, 4 or 5 people passed by, all finding it too expensive. Hee, Taoist, we meet again. A familiar voice sounded next to him. The booth next to Chun Sansi belonged to an old man who sold talismans. Talisman Master Mo, with whom he had a passing acquaintance. Taoist, it's no use. Mo teased. Even if your fasting pills are good quality, no one will buy them. After all, everyone buys fasting pills just to fill their stomachs during closed-door cultivation and to maintain their energy. Whether the quality is a bit better or worse doesn't really matter. Chun Sansi had to admit this was true. It wasn't until later, when he agreed to buy 3 get 1 free, that he began to sell some. But then the wait seemed endless for the remaining body-refining pills like true martial pills, since martial cultivators were rare, and these pills were not cheap. Taoist, that's odd. Mo, who had sold a handful of talismans that morning, was in a good mood. He took a swig from his wine gourd and started a conversation. You are a first-rank top-grade alchemist, just casually producing yellow dragon pills or clear spirit pills that enhance cultivation wouldn't give you trouble. Instead, you focus on body-refining pills. Surely Taoist must be a martial cultivator? Heh. Forgive my curiosity, I won't pry. Taoist. Chun Sansi inquired. Do you know where I could sell these body-refining pills? You've truly asked the right person. Mo didn't continue directly but changed the topic while holding 2 talismans, muttering as if to himself, martial cultivators can't use spells or fly. This mid-grade flying swallow talisman of mine allows martial cultivators to fly for a short duration, which is quite useful to them. And this illusion talisman is a good way to save one's life. How much? Chun Sansi clearly understood what the other was implying. Taoist, if you want them, I'll sell both for 5 spirit crystals. These are mid-grade talismans, at a fair price. Feel free to ask around. Chapter 602 Workshops Bounty, White Robe Gains Fame _2. Mo Zhu said with a chuckle. If it weren't for the fact that I'm a bit tired today and want to go back to rest, I would have insisted on selling for 6 spirit stones. Taoist. Chun Sansi then asked, may I inquire about the price of your talisman heritage? That's not for sale. Mo Zhu firmly refused. I rely on these few talismans to make a living. If I sold them to you, what if you started competing with me? I'd starve to death. All right then, just give me these 2 talismans. Chun Sansi said as he took out a spirit stone. Cash and goods exchanged hands. He really couldn't fly, so buying 2 talismans for emergencies was indeed appropriate. Taoist, these body refining pills you have, not many people need them. Mo Zhu advised. You can go to the very west end of Fish and Dragon Collection and find a stall selling mystical weapons. The stall is owned by the martial arts family of the Bai family. They will definitely have a need for martial arts elixirs. Martial arts family? Chun Sansi inquired. Are there also martial cultivator families? Of course there are. Martial cultivators are few, but not extinct. Not only is the Bai family a martial cultivator family, but their clan leader is also a great cultivator in the true power late stage. However, Mo Zhu lowered his voice. In recent years, the Bai family has refused to sell their services, and they've been suppressed by several surrounding families. Now they can't even get a shop, so they can only set up a stall at Fish and Dragon Collection like the rest of us. I'll keep that in mind. Chun Sansi then asked, may I dare to ask Taoist, do you know where I could buy inheritances like cultivation techniques? Cultivation technique? Mo Zhu answered earnestly, you can't buy cultivation techniques here. Even if you did, they'd be nothing but poor quality common goods. Really good cultivation techniques are either sect secrets or family heritages, and almost no one would sell them. However, if you really want it, you should check out Lake Heart Island at the end of Fish and Dragon Collection. That's the black market. You should understand what kind of things you can find there, but the safety there isn't as guaranteed as in Fish and Dragon Collection. You'll need to weigh the risks and benefits yourself. Thank you, Taoist. Chun Sansi cupped his fists in gratitude. These 2 talismans were a good purchase. Thinking back, just for pointing out the way, this old Mo had demanded 3 spirit stones, a true expert in swindling those unfamiliar with the ways of the world. Seeing that the elixir pills were not selling, Chun Sansi decided not to waste any more time and began packing up to leave. Following old Mo's directions, he walked straight down the street and soon saw at the corner a very distinctive stall with swords and sabers on display, which looked somewhat out of place in the marketplace, as they weren't magic artifacts. The stall owner was a middle-aged man with a somewhat scholarly air. Through chi observation skill, Chun Sansi could roughly judge that the man's strength was above martial saint, likely in the true power realm. Esteemed sir, are you here to buy weapons? The middle-aged man introduced. We have all sorts of top-quality Shen weapons here, all personally made by me. I also have weapons suitable for those in the true power realm. If you're interested, I can take some out for you to have a look. My apologies, brother. I'm not here to buy weapons. Chun Sansi somewhat awkwardly said. I have come to sell something. Sell something? Disappointment showed on the middle-aged man's face. People sell their wares at their own stalls. What's with coming to someone else's location to do so? Brother, why don't you take a look first? Chun Sansi took out an elixir pill from a porcelain bottle and said, I have both nourishing pills and true martial pills, which you might not need, but perhaps they could be useful for the younger generation in your family. They are all quality goods. These too. The middle-aged man showed some interest, picked up the nourishing pill to examine it closely and asked, Can I take a look at the true martial pill? Chun Sansi opened another porcelain bottle, but didn't hand it over. Instead, he let the man observe it from a distance. A true martial pill was worth 200 spirit stones. Naturally not something to be treated as casually as a nourishing pill. Sir, the middle-aged man stood up. Could it be that you're an alchemist specializing in refining martial cultivator elixir pills? Not quite. Chun Sansi candidly replied. But I am indeed an alchemist. I'll take all these elixir pills. The middle-aged man said quite generously. I'll give you the highest market price for them. Also, Taoist, could you refine second-tier body refining pills? I'll buy the whole lot. I'm only a first-order alchemist. Chun Sansi shook his head. Alchemy is linked to the strength of one's divine sense. And divine sense is connected to the level of magic cultivation. To refine second-tier elixir pills, one must possess a sufficiently strong divine sense. From this perspective, raising one's magic cultivation level is very necessary. Pure martial cultivators basically can't rely on themselves for alchemy, talisman painting, or formation setting. I see. The middle-aged man nodded thoughtfully, then introduced himself. I am Bai Linxuan. May I ask for your respected name? Chun Sansi provided a false name. After getting to know each other, Bai Linxuan invited. You are an alchemist, but you refine elixir pills for martial cultivators. You must be a rare talent in both martial arts and magic. Coming to fish and dragon collection for business, you must be a loose cultivator. I wonder, Brother Zhang, would you be interested in joining our Bai family? To become our patron, where the monthly supply of spirit stones won't be less, and we will share martial arts resources with you. I've grown accustomed to roaming freely. Chun Sansi declined. I'm afraid I'm not suited to stay in one place. Absolutely not? Bai Linchuan added, Brother Zhang, the path of martial cultivation is filled with hardships and hurdles. Without the support of a power, it is very difficult to break through the true power realm before the age of 120. Besides, Brother Zhang, you don't have second-tier pill recipes for the true power realm, do you? I can make a promise. Chapter 603. The Workshop's Reward, the White Robes Fame _3. As long as Brother Zhang serves the Bai family, when you can refine second-tier elixirs, I'll directly share the pill recipe with you. How about that? Second-tier pill recipes. Chun Sansi was somewhat tempted, but he also heard something else. The reason the other party was so eager to win him over was probably because they valued the identity of an alchemist. After all, martial cultivators without mana cannot refine elixirs. And among cultivators, alchemists have limited lifespans. They would not waste their precious time on the thankless task of martial arts elixirs. Therefore, alchemists who knew how to refine martial arts elixirs were an incredibly precious resource to martial cultivators. If Chun Sansi could get his hands on a second-tier pill recipe, it would undoubtedly be of great benefit to his promotion after reaching the true power realm. But there's that saying again. He was not from this world and could not stay for long. I must ask for your forgiveness, brother. In the end, Chun Sansi still refused. All right. Although Bai Linchuan was disappointed, he didn't say much more. However, I will continue to do business with Brother Zhang. Not just continue, but do it on a larger scale. I intend to place an order for a batch of true martial pills from you. Is that possible? True martial pills? Chun Sansi asked. How many does Brother Bai want? 10. Bai Linchuan said, I'll pay 200 spirit stones per pill according to the price at the 100 treasure tower, and I can pay a fifth of the deposit first, which is 400 spirit stones. How about that? That's not a small sum. Chun Sansi did not immediately agree. Doesn't Brother Bai fear that I will take the deposit and disappear? After all, I don't usually reside in Daisfang City. True martial pills are not easy to sell. Brother Zhang will certainly not miss this opportunity to earn spirit stones. Bai Linchuan confidently stated. Besides, as a person who practices martial arts, how can we be like those magic cultivators who are always scheming and petty? Brother Bai is straightforward, but I wonder if you have any requirements regarding time? Chun Sansi honestly said. Before long, I will travel far and may not return for a short time. Within 5 years, Bai Linchuan stated. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Good. I'll take this deal, Chun Sansi agreed. 5 years. It might not seem long to cultivators, but to martial cultivators it certainly was not short. Giving such a long time essentially amounted to giving absolute trust. The deal was settled. He sold a total of 220 spirit stones for nourishing chi pills and true martial pills. The other party gave a deposit of 400 spirit stones. Together with the serpent, that too was bought. Adding to what his master left him, Chun Sansi's current net worth was 730 spirit stones. He secured the spirit stones. Then Brother Bai, I'll see you again in the future. Good. Bai Linchuan also made a fist salute. I'll be waiting for Brother Zhang to come find me at Maishan. Farewell. After the farewells, Chun Sansi went to the black market on Lake Heart Island. The entrance fee to the black market was even more expensive, requiring 8 spirit crystals. After paying, there would be a boatman to ferry you all the way to the shore. The vegetation on Lake Heart Island was dense, and all the trees were black, similar to Chilling Mountain, giving off a sinister atmosphere. The cultivators coming and going either wore masks or black robes. He guessed even those showing their faces must have used techniques to change their appearance. Inside the black market, the stalls were no longer out in the open but inside small wooden huts, which allowed cultivators to trade privately. There were signs hung in front of each hut, indicating things like magic artifacts or elixir pills. Do you accept magic artifacts? Chun Sansi entered one of the huts and took out a horsetail whisk and a flying sword from his storage bag. The masked cultivator quickly offered a price. Both items together, 60 spirit stones. Chun Sansi emphasized, these are both mid-grade magic devices. Taoist. The masked cultivator's voice was somewhat hoarse. There's no point in haggling over goods that have been looted. If you think it's cheap, then find someone else. It's yours. Chun Sansi did not haggle. The fewer times a dead person's magic artifact was exposed, the less likely it would be recognized. Especially that flying sword, which belonged to a disciple of Qingshan Mountain. He took the 60 spirit stones and asked further. I see on the sign outside that you have cultivation techniques for sale. What kind of cultivation techniques do you have? Snap! The masked cultivator slapped a jade scroll on the table. The jade scroll contained an introduction to the cultivation technique and incomplete content. Chun Sansi infused a trace of spiritual power into it. Swallowing fire technique. A chi refinement realm fire attribute cultivation technique. originally from the Endless Fire Domain's Skyflame sect and considered a superior method. He checked a few other places in the black market and found that this technique was the best. At what price? 1,000 spirit stones. The masked cultivator didn't even leave room for bargaining. This is a superior method. If you can complete the subsequent content, it is said that you can cultivate a sacred fire comparable to fire veins. Not to mention the black market, even the entire Days Fong City only has this one copy, and this technique has special restrictions that make it impossible to create duplicates. This means that once it's sold to you, it's gone. So the price won't drop by a single spirit stone. 1,000 spirit stones. Surely a sky-high price. Chun Sansi couldn't gather enough even if he used all of his spirit stones. Not to mention he still had some other items to procure. Fortunately, he was prepared. A sheepskin scroll appeared in his hand with a flash of spirit light. What about this for an exchange, Taoist? This is. A hint of surprise flickered in the eyes of the cultivator behind the mask. The cultivation technique of incense fire, divine Tao, and a spirit communication scroll? Before coming here, Chun Sansi had done some research in the book collection pavilion. The incense fire divine Tao was a very unique existence in the cultivation world. They did not rely on nature's spiritual energy, but could cultivate solely through the incense offered by mortals. However, the specific magic skills were controlled by several special sects ruling over certain countries, with the most famous being the Buddha country in the Western continent and the evil god countries in the Thundering Cold continent. Chapter 604, Workshop Bounty, White Robe Gains Fame _4. And the practice of the incense fire divine Tao is extremely unique. Unlike magic cultivators and martial cultivators, whose talents can be judged directly by their physical constitutions, those of the incense fire divine Tao rely solely on something similar to an inherent enlightenment, such as the wisdom root mentioned in the Buddha country. Some cultivators, whose qualifications are poor as both magic cultivators and martial cultivators, might possess a commendable wisdom root and thus switch to the incense fire divine Tao, presenting many cultivators with the opportunity to defy the heavens and change their fate. However, the inheritance of the incense fire divine Tao is immensely precious. The sheepskin scrolls, known as spirit communication scrolls, are the most valuable. Possessing one guarantees acceptance as a disciple in any sect and access to excellent resources from the incense fire divine Tao, making them exceptionally valuable. A sheepskin scroll of the true god Tao can sell in the black market for up to 3,000 spirit stones, 3 times as much as the swallowing fire technique. A sheepskin scroll of the evil god path, however, is relatively cheaper, selling for only 500 spirit stones. Chun Sansi had both types, but he only took out the true god Tao scroll. Allowing the technique of the evil god path to get out might only result in another harmful evil cultivator. Did you see it clearly? Chun Sansi took away the sheepskin scroll. I saw it clearly. The masked cultivator said deeply. We can trade, but I can only give you 1,000 spirit stones. After all, the scroll appears more valuable on the surface, but I still need to find a way to sell it off later. At most, I'll add a pill recipe for the Clear Spirit Pill. The Clear Spirit Pill, a mid-grade first-rank elixir pill, can enhance the cultivation efficiency of those in the middle stage of chi refinement. While rare, its recipe can be resold, so its actual price isn't very high. Nevertheless, it's still quite decent. Deal. Chun Sansi finally nodded in agreement. The two exchanged cultivation techniques and confirmed there were no issues before completing the trade. Leaving Lake Heart Island, Chun Sansi returned to Days Fong City's 100 Treasure Tower as quickly as possible, engaging in a large-scale purchase. True Martial Pill Ingredients X15. Price, 1,500 Spirit Stones. Nourishing Meridian Pill Ingredients X20. Price, 20 Spirit Stones. Spiritual Pet Storage Bag. Price, 50 Spirit Stones. Yellow Dragon Pill X20. Price, 160 Spirit Stones. Clear Spirit Pill Ingredients X5. Price, 25 Spirit Stones. Total expenditure, 1,755 Spirit Stones. Embarrassingly, Chun Sansi was short of 25 Spirit Stones, so he had to ask to use the Spirit Stones intended for selling the flying sword, which were supposed to belong to little dumbass. Lend me some, I'll pay you back once I sell the elixir pills. The newly acquired Spirit Stones in Zhao Zhao's hands weren't even warm yet, and she already felt heartache. Will you really pay back? I promise to repay. Chun Sansi snatched the bag and poured all the Spirit Stones onto the table, finally managing to gather the full payment. All items were stored in the storage bag. They headed straight to the slum area. Next, they just needed to obtain the Jingshan fruit, and the journey would be considered complete, enabling them to return to the eastern continent and begin preparations for advancing to the True Power Realm. The reason for picking up the fruit last was because the reward from Wei Xian was public. Once he took the fruit, he would be akin to a commoner possessing a precious jade, and inevitably become a target, no longer daring to venture near places like the black market. Taking the item and leaving immediately was the correct choice. Let's go. Chun Sansi stored Qian soon in the storage bag and then led Zhao Zhao through the slums, based on the numbers on a wooden sign, and found Jia Ding number, then gently knocked on the dilapidated wooden door. May I ask if Senior Wei is at home? Who is it? Inside, a woman's voice responded. We are friends of Senior Wei, Zhao Zhao replied. Then, Taoist, please come in. Although the environment of the slum area was poor, it still maintained minimal safety standards. No one would dare to cause trouble in broad daylight, otherwise business in the workshop would be impossible to conduct. Creak. Chun Sansi gently pushed open the door. Inside the simple house, a woman appeared to be in her 30s, with a pretty face. Observed through Qi observation skill, she was also a martial saint. However, her complexion was deathly pale, her breath was weak, and her lips were dark and purple, displaying signs of severe illness. Chun Sansi greeted with a fist and palm salute. Taoist, might I know who you are? He noticed that she was deeply poisoned. Presumably, Wei Xian was exchanging the Jingshan fruit. I am Wei Xian's Dao companion. Surname Song, given name Guizhi. Song Guizhi, seeing their surprised looks, explained with a wry smile. Don't be deceived by my youthful appearance. I am actually over 90 years old. The reason I look this way is because my husband Wei previously spent a fortune to buy me a fixed color pill. Fixed color pill? Chun Sansi silently noted in his mind. Speaking of which, Song Guizhi struggled to pour water. Both of you Taoists look unfamiliar. Why have I never heard Senior Wei mention you before? We are here to deliver fish. Zhao Zhao held the legs of the unconscious repairing fish. Fish? Song Guizhi was startled. Today someone said they found a repairing fish and had already informed my husband Wei to retrieve it. You might have arrived a bit late. Someone else has already come? Chun Sansi had only left Chiliang Mountain half a day ago, and he had already researched. The Tuashui River near Chiliang Mountain was the only place nearby with repairing fish. But he had not seen anyone else fishing there. May I ask who they were? Lu Buqin. Song Guizhi continued. Lu Buqin, the administrator of Daisfang City, has a good reputation. Today, early in the morning, he asked someone to invite my husband Wei, and he went to the Chiliang Mountain area to retrieve the newly caught fish. Him? That's bad. Chun Sansi inwardly cursed. The wilderness on the way to Chiliang Mountain. This area was already beyond the scope of the workshop's protection and was not at all safe, especially as dusk approached. Cultivators who had been hunting had all begun to descend the mountain. Some had full gains, others lacked limbs, and some carried the bodies of their companions, while those who returned empty-handed had an uncontrollable joy on their faces. Chapter 605, Workshop Bounty White Robe Gains Fame _5. As the sky gradually darkened, the surroundings became more desolate and quiet. Wei Xian carried the giant blade, striding swiftly forward. After reaching a wooded area, he finally met the person he was supposed to meet. Brother Lu. A look of joy appeared on Wei Xian's weathered face. Old Wei. Lu Buqin smiled and said, Didn't I tell you? I'll personally deliver it to you tomorrow. There was no need for you to come so late. This area is dangerous at night due to the presence of robbery cultivators. The poison in my partner's body grows heavier day by day. It could reach the heart at any moment, and then it'll be too late. Wei Xian stretched out his hand. Steward Lu, it would be a great help if you could give me the fish. I knew you were anxious. Lu Buqin maintained his smile. But Old Wei, you've got to show me the Jingshan fruit first, right? Rest assured. Wei Xian took out the fruit from his storage bag. This Jingshan fruit was given to me by the steward hall. How could it be fake? Lu Buqin took it over, examining it carefully under the moonlight before tucking it into his pouch. It's indeed genuine. And the fish? Wei Xian urged. Steward Lu, please hurry and hand the fish over to me. The fish? Lu Buqin's skin still wore a smile, but no trace of mirth could be felt. Old Wei, I'll give it to you tomorrow. You. Wei Xian seemed to grow angry, but eventually he slapped his thigh in resignation. Ah, forget it. Brother Lu, you have a reputation to uphold as an official of the law enforcement hall. I suppose you wouldn't deceive an old man like me, so I'll head back first. He said, coughing as he did, then shakily turned and left. Watching his retreating form, Lu Buqin's gaze grew colder, and a long knife silently appeared in his hand. Boom! But just as he was about to make his move, Wei Xian, who seemed frail and hunched a moment ago, suddenly erupted with vast and majestic true qi. It was unclear when he had gripped the giant blade in his hand, which under the moonlight turned pitch black and dazzling, like thick ink violently splashed down. Boom! The ground cracked, dust filled the air, yet he could feel that he hadn't hit his target. Standing atop a tree over 30 feet high, Lu Buqin, with his blade in hand, coldly looked down at the old man on the ground. Old Wei, why such anger? I said I'd give you the fish tomorrow. Is it necessary to attack? Lu Buqin, since there's no fish, then return the Jingshan fruit. Wei Xian was beside himself with rage. Oh Wei Xian, if I recall correctly, you were a martial cultivator from the mortal realm too, and with your partner you were known as the supreme couple under the heavens in that world. How could you lack even this bit of caution? Tisk, it's truly concern that breeds chaos. Lu Buqin sneered. There's no fish, sure, but since you're so passionately devoted, I might as well send you to reunite with her down below. Who knows? Maybe in the next life, you'll be husband and wife again. Whoosh! He triggered the mechanism on the knife handle. A chain linked the blade to its handle, extending the initial 3-foot knife to an attack range of over 30 feet in an instant. With a howl, it turned into a 3-headed Jiaolong. Wei Xian was unafraid. The giant blade in his hand swept like ink across the wilderness, fiercely clashing with the 3-headed Jiaolong. First, despite being at a disadvantage, Wei Xian managed to keep his ground. But from the 10th exchange, his true qi sharply declined, clearly struggling to maintain it. By the 15th exchange, he was utterly defeated. The giant blade spun away, embedding itself into a large rock, while his aged body was hurled dozens of feet before crashing heavily into the ground. He coughed up several mouthfuls of fresh blood, unable to stand anymore, lying on the ground gasping for breath with all his might, like a dying old dog. How sad. Lu Buqin shook his head slightly, lamenting. This is the fate of us martial cultivators. Our bodies age within a set time, and even if once first under the heavens in our own world, in the end we can't even hold a blade. While he spoke, the movements of his hands didn't slow down. The chain blade swung down, aiming to directly sever the old man's head. A swift battle was necessary. Although this place was remote, the noise of the fight might attract other cultivators. If seen, he would no longer be able to remain in Daisfang City. Not to mention, he still had to fabricate the scene afterwards, framing someone else. Just as the blade was about to fall on Wei Xian's neck, suddenly a terrifying mix of evil qi and true qi burst forward, and a divine beast, the vermilion bird, struck the blade. Under the massive impact, the chain blade uncontrollably flew sideways. Lu Buqin manipulated the mechanism to retract the chain, recombining the blade and handle, still being forced to take several steps back from the impact before coming to a halt. Glancing up, he saw the white robe he had just met in Chilliang Mountain Range. Is it you? Lu Buqin exclaimed furiously. Dare to ruin my plans, you'll die here too. The white robe didn't bother with useless words. The sound of a bowstring rang out repeatedly. Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Black Tortoise. The 4 symbols true qi came one after another. Boom! Lu Buqin cut down the Azure Dragon first, his arm going numb. Then the White Tiger caused his blade to fracture, and by the time he faced the Black Tortoise, he could no longer hold back. It felt like a mountain was crushing down on him. His weapon slipped from his grasp, and he was sent flying backward like a cut kite, skidding over 100 steps after embedding into the ground, coming to a stop only after crashing into a towering tree. His meridians were shattered and the blood he spewed would not stop. How could it be? It wasn't just Wei Xian who was first under the heavens. He was also the Saber Saint, the first under the heavens in the kingdom of Aulai. The first under the heavens. Chapter 606. Workshop Bounty, White Robe Gains Fame _6. The person in front of him clad in a white robe was clearly at the perfection of transcendence. At the same level, how could there be such a great disparity? He couldn't even fend off the arrows shot by the opponent. There was no time to think. Lu Buqin hastily took out a talisman from his bosom and then spread a pair of flowing light wings behind him, flying towards the distance. In the blink of an eye, he had already covered several hundred steps. Chun Sansi was just about to take out the flying swallow talisman when suddenly he felt a connection in his heart. He took out the spiritual pet storage bag. A streak of flowing light landed, transforming into a white horse. As the white horse neighed, waves of spiritual power surged, augmenting its hooves. Though it was galloping furiously, one couldn't hear the sound of its hooves at all. The scenery on both sides quickly blurred as it regressed at high speed. The speed of Qian Sun. It was not a bit slower than Lu Buqin using the talisman to fly. It had broken through. Back in Liangzhou, Qian Sun had often practiced alongside him. Unconsciously, it had already become a first-order demon beast. Damn! Lu Buqin's face turned pale with horror as he watched the white-robed white horse drawing nearer to him. Meanwhile, the noise from the fight ultimately attracted other cultivators to check the situation. There were 2 of them, both colleagues from the Steward Hall, one a qi refining middle-stage cultivator, the other a martial saint. Brother Zhao. With the situation as it was, Lu Buqin could no longer care about many things. He directly took out the Jingshan fruit, throwing it into the hands of the martial saint. Brother Zhao, this man is a robbery cultivator. Kill him, and the Jingshan fruit is yours. Oh! The martial saint with the surname Zhao looked at the Jingshan fruit in his hand, his expression filled with elation. What this thing meant was self-evident. Lu Buqin is the robbery cultivator. Chun Sansi tried to persuade kindly. Don't be deceived by him. What did you say? The martial saint with the surname Zhao's eyes rolled swiftly, guessing that the Jingshan fruit might belong to the person in white in front of him. Immediately a glint of greed flashed through his eyes. Wasn't this just letting him return what he had in his hand? Nonsense. How could Brother Lu be a robbery cultivator? It's clearly you. Fellow cultivators, a robbery cultivator can be exchanged for quite a few spirit stones. Let's take him down together. In the midst of the talk, 2 more cultivators gathered. Boom! A black dragon burst forth from the sky. An arrow was shot. The martial saint with the surname Zhao immediately realized he couldn't block it, but no matter how he dodged and weaved, he couldn't escape. In the end, he had no choice but to raise the long sword in his hand and bravely chop at it. Boom! The black dragon pierced through his chest, and he died on the spot. The Jingshan fruit rolled to the feet of another cultivator. The cultivator nonchalantly picked it up. "You've got quite the nerve, daring to kill a law enforcement deacon of the law enforcement hall right before my eyes. Greed never ends. Doesn't divide any black and white." A nameless anger rose in Chun Sansi's heart. Where was his patience to explain again? These people clearly wanted to swallow up the heaven-sent treasures. In the blink of an eye, he sprinted to the opponent's side with the aid of Chen Sun. His weapon already switched from the big bow to the red lotus blade. Clang! The flash of the blade. The cultivator's protective spell shattered like glass. His chest burst open, and scarlet blood spurted out, resembling a blossoming red lotus under the frosty moonlight. Chun Sansi extended his hand, grabbing the red Jingshan fruit from mid-air. But the red lotus blade also cracked. Sun Li's blade could not compare to these people's magic artifacts. At this moment, 7 or 8 law enforcement cultivators had already gathered nearby. Lu Buqin also took the opportunity to hide behind them, breathing a long sigh of relief. With the situation escalating, more and more people would soon gather here, and that young man could only flee immediately. He had finally saved his own life. Thinking this, he looked up again, his heart suddenly trembling. Because the white robe had not fled. Instead, he was charging towards him. Had he gone mad? Wasn't he afraid of being trapped here and unable to escape? Audacious robbery cultivator. The law enforcement cultivators sternly scolded. "What are you trying to do? Those who block me." Chun Sansi's eyes seemed to blaze with crimson flames under the moonlight, his voice resounding like thunder. "Die." Just one word. It actually shook the hearts of many cultivators, their bodies going somewhat stiff. Such intense murderous intent. Having practiced for decades and contended with others, they had never encountered someone with such deep murderous intent. The moment it exploded, it seemed like a tsunami, as if killing his way out from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Even an ordinary robbery cultivator wouldn't have such heavy murderous intent. The 2 cultivators at the forefront, bracing themselves, stepped forward. The damaged long spear vanished, replaced by a silver dragon. Chun Sansi knew that brandishing the long spear would inevitably expose his identity, but the pressing matter was still to escape as quickly as possible. Otherwise, once more cultivators arrived, leaving would become very difficult. Moreover, having inherited the silver spear, he naturally had to face the consequences that came with the Longdan bright silver spear. His master's enemies were not yet dead. Chun Sansi was the clothes inheritor of the guardian son Xiangzong. It was easy to trace, or rather, there was no need to trace since it was openly known. It was only a matter of time before people from the cultivation world came to their doorstep. So there was nothing to fear. If they were to come, let them come fiercely. Kill them fiercely. Boom! True Qi surged. The silver dragon flashed past. 2 men fell to the ground immediately. No one dared to block the way any longer. The silver spear. One of the cultivators felt it looked familiar. It was Guiqi's weapon. He was suddenly terrified. The remaining 6 cultivators, like a receding tide, stepped aside, revealing Lu Buqin, who was already pale as a ghost behind them. The spear's light flashed. Blood gushed like a fountain. A head exploded, scattering red and white matter into the night sky under the moonlight. As the cultivators retreated, they questioned, "Who exactly are you? Why are you holding Guiqi's weapon? Do you think you can escape?" In a white robe on a white horse, under the gaze of many cultivators, he swiftly disappeared into the night, leaving behind only a resonant voice. The killer, Chun Sansi, is. Murder by robbery cultivators. Murder. After a long time, Steward Hall of Daysfang City received the news. A law enforcement elder arrived on a flying sword, looking at the bodies everywhere, enraged. What loose cultivator has such audacity, daring to slaughter the law enforcement cultivators of our law enforcement hall? This man looks unfamiliar. We have never seen him inside the workshop before. He must be a foreigner. I know. A cultivator who had previously gone hunting with Lu Buqin spoke. Is he the one in a white robe, using a magic weapon, bow and arrows? His surname is Zhang, first name Lai Zi. What Zhang Lai Zi? He already said it himself. His name is Chun Sansi. Right, Guiqi. He's holding Guiqi's long spear. After causing a great disturbance in Southern Ridge, I heard that Guiqi was from the Eastern continent and had many disciples in the mortal world. Guiqi has already died of old age in the mortal world. Could it be one of his disciples? I don't care whose disciple he is, or where he comes from. The elder gritted his teeth. Search for him. Once found, flay him 1,000 cuts. For so many years, since the establishment of Li Family Square Market, despite there being robbery cultivators within hundreds of miles, there had never been such a disgraceful incident. It was indeed a great humiliation. Misunderstanding. A severely injured Wei Xian, leaning on a knife, came struggling over to explain the previous event. What? The law enforcement elder narrowed his eyes. Then why didn't he come to the law enforcement hall to clarify things instead of resorting to murder? Does our law enforcement hall not give justice? Elder Su. Wei Xian started to argue. The thing is, shut up. The law enforcement elder coldly huffed. Do you know that among the cultivators he killed, there was a man surnamed Li? The Li family. That was the sky over Days Fang City. Here, only the Li family could kill, not be killed. Killing a member of the Li family, no amount of explanation would suffice. Slap. Inside and outside the workshop, one after another wanted posters were posted. Robbery cultivators. Chun Sansi. Chapter 607. Western Expedition. Attack the Immortal. Buzz. Through the ancient transmission array, he returned to the ends of the earth. After confirming there was no issue with the Jingshan fruit, Chun Sansi breathed a sigh of relief, albeit with some complications. Fortunately, the item was obtained. He didn't go straight to Wei Xian with the fish that cleanses the soul to exchange for the fruit after leaving Chilean Mountain. Because Wei Xian's reward was public knowledge. Once he got his hands on it, it wouldn't take long for everyone to know. In such a scenario, going to the black market would be like walking into trouble with a gold brick, and it wasn't on the way either. So, he decided to go shopping first, planning to complete the transaction when leaving the workshop and then leave as quickly as possible. As a result, he wasn't targeted, but Wei Xian was by the law enforcement deacon of the law enforcement hall. These cultivators, they're even worse than bandits. Chun Sansi looked back and saw the dimly lit ancient transmission array. He could confirm that no one would be chasing after him anytime soon. The ceiling of this world was shaking but still existed. The cultivators of Heavenly Water Continent could not massively invade the Eastern Continent unless they used specific times when the seals were loosened or relied on the J tokens of the ancient transmission array. In fact, during this trip, he observed that the cultivators of the cultivation world had always been doing this. The cultivation world is vast and boundless, not limited to the Daysfang city he saw and the various sects mentioned by Old Man Li. There must be many of them, surely finding ways to enter the divine continent to look for so-called spirit veins. If they found anything, they would definitely stir up trouble in the Eastern Continent. Moreover, judging by their hefty rewards, it is quite possible they have already discovered something. Why are you covered in a stench of blood? Zhao Zhao, who was arranged to wait near the transmission array, looked behind to see if there were pursuers, asking, "Did you kill someone?" Yes. This trip to Daysfang City had made Chun Sansi somewhat notorious. If he wanted to come back and buy things, he would need to change his appearance again. After leaving the ends of the earth, he made his way back to Nanshu Small City and regrouped with Qin Changshu and others. Lord Governor, Qin Changshu reported, "There's been trouble. Is it related to immortals?" Chun Sansi guessed. "How did you know, Lord Governor?" Qin Changshu was slightly surprised and then informed, "Shortly after you went to the ends of the earth, I received news from Bailiang that the West Qi Kingdom, in alliance with many immortal masters, invaded our great Shang dynasty from the west side of Mu State, and then they pressed straight into Luozhou. Mu State's Great Wall is sturdy and has sufficient troops. If I remember correctly, after the turmoil at Ziwei Mountain, a newly advanced martial saint was sent to keep watch over it. How could it fall in such a short amount of time? Was it because of immortals too?" "Exactly," Qin Changshu answered. "According to the intelligence reports, it was simply unwinnable. West Qi Kingdom's troops included immortals who could do sword flight, even launching beheading operations in the dead of night, killing the generals and then flying away, leaving our soldiers completely helpless. Plus, after several years of West Qi's meticulous preparations, the depletion from the previous turmoil in Ming State has basically recovered 70 to 80%, and this time, they gathered the might of their entire nation, claiming to have 500,000 troops in an imposing manner. The battlefronts at Mu State and Luozhou are indeed peculiar." Chun Sansi inquired. "Altogether, the West Border 8 states have an army of 200,000 under the commander's standard. Are they still in the process of maneuvering? Has there been any movement from the Liangzhou army?" "Most of the Bailiang army has been deployed to the east," Qin Changshu said. "Dongqing is also amassing a large force once again, pressing into the border at all costs, with the so-called assistance of immortal masters. Nansu is no exception. In the places ahead, they have already clashed several times with forces under Prince Jiannan." "Dongqing? Shinguadi?" Chun Sansi mulled over it in his mind. Having just driven off the barbarians, the countries from the east, west, and south had all emerged in full force. This could only mean one thing. The spirit veins had been found, and most likely right within the territory of the Great Shang dynasty. According to the rules of the cultivation world, whichever power can occupy the territory when the spirit veins resurge, that power owns the spirit veins. This is why there's such a great upheaval affecting the entire world. The immortals had shifted a war that should have been theirs onto the mortals' shoulders. No matter the outcome of this war, it would be a great drain on the national strength of the countries involved. All of this would have to be borne by the common people. The Bailiang army has gone eastward. Chun Sansi strategized. "What sort of plans does the court have for me?" "Nothing as of now." Qin Changshu's intelligence was detailed. "They say that at the beginning of the war, they wanted to ask for strategic advice from the commander, but when they learned that you were in retreat, they did not disturb you further. At present, only the Hungza camp remains stationed in Liangzhou City. The rest of the Bailiang army, led by General Liu, Pei Tiannan, and others, is confronting Dongqing. This means, Chan Sansi joked, my retreat and non-participation in the battle not only didn't result in the court urging me to end my retreat, but they seem quite supportive of my continued seclusion. Currently, this does seem to be the case. Qin Changshu cautiously said, would it be okay for me to share my opinion? What's there to ask? You may speak your mind. Chan Sansi led the horse forward. Just speak freely. The court doesn't want to continue seeing you gain more merits. Qin Changshu said gravely, Lord Governor, at just over 20 years of age, you're already champion marquis. With your current position, if you continue gaining merits, there'd be nothing left to bestow upon you. The court does not aim to stop using you, but rather, they dare not rely on you anymore. Whether they use me is of no concern to me. Chan Sansi said, I'm just worried about the West ultimately running into trouble. Who, specifically, is West Qi's commander? Tell me in detail. The nominal commander is Zhong Wuxin. Lord Governor, you might have come across him before in Ming State. But the true leader of West Qi this time is the military immortal. Chapter 608, Western Expedition, Attack the Immortal, _2. Qin Changshu paused. Oh, not the military immortal Yu Shanggong from the history books, but an immortal named Han Xiang, who is said to come from another world. He once unified 7 kingdoms in the mortal realm, earned the title military immortal in that world, then embarked on the immortal path, becoming an immortal master, and he is in full command of the battle this time. These pieces of information are not difficult to find out. West Qi has been loudly publicizing it themselves. After all, with you here, Lord Governor, if they don't select someone with an even more prominent reputation to stand up, they can't even boost their morale, let alone fight a war. Unifying 7 kingdoms. Those from the mortal realm who seek immortality in the cultivation world truly come from all walks of life, but those who reach the point of seeking immortality were originally outstanding figures in their own worlds, like Wei Xian, who was also the #1 in Jianghu when he was young. You go collect more detailed intelligence, map out the current military deployment of our forces, as well as the enemy army's marching route, draw everything down and make no mistakes. After drawing, bring it to me for review. Qin Sansi instructed. A journey back and forth. Before they realized it, 6 months had passed. The weather had become hot, especially in Nansu where the air humidity is high. The damp and hot weather with sticky clothes clinging to the body was very uncomfortable. Practitioners of martial arts would not be affected by this weather, but of course they still preferred normal weather. There were local battles between Nansu and Prince Zhennan. However, it temporarily did not affect the nearby Liangshan. They were able to travel smoothly, and the negotiations for their submission were also proceeding in an orderly manner. Soon after, Liangshan would belong to the Great Shang Court, allowing them to retain 20,000 troops stationed in Mongshan Prefecture. After organizing even more detailed information, Qin Changshu brought the marked map and explained, Lord Governor, please look. Mu State, Luo State fell subsequently. The court then rallied the Western commanding army to advance rapidly. The commander of the commanding army is Tong Xiaochu, a descendant of the Tong family, who was one of the 12 marshals from the 12 marshals of the Unicorn Pavilion granted titles at the founding of the dynasty by the Grand Ancestor. This person previously served in the former Crown Prince's Huben army and, instead of being punished after the rebellion at Ziwei Mountain, was awarded medicine by His Majesty which allowed him to break through to Marshal Saint. Along with Marshal Saint Tenglu from the Death Guard, the two of them, as general and deputy general, lead the commanding army. And our great Shang dynasty also has immortal masters. One is Chu Yuanxiang, whom you, Lord Governor, met in Liangzhou. Another is from the capital city, named Wang Jun, just like with West Qi. These 2 immortal masters are the true commanders of the great army. Once these 2 arrived, West Qi's immortal master had no choice but to stop their decapitation strategy, and both sides returned to a normal warfare deployment. Currently, the commanding army has reached near Luo River, and West Qi remains in strong defense. The 2 sides are in a deadlock. The commanding army consolidates its positions and is currently camping in Yiling, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Wait a minute, Chan Sansi interrupted. Where did you say the commanding army has pitched their camp? Here, Yiling. Qin Changshu's hand rested on a densely vegetated area of the map. In the scorching heat of June, the military officers manage well, but the soldiers below cannot stand it. They've pitched the camp in Yiling to avoid the harsh sun and to access sufficient water resources. The commanding army is doomed. Chan Sansi sighed. Quickly write a letter informing them to immediately withdraw from Yiling. It might still be possible if they're quick enough, but if it's any slower, the entire army could be wiped out. What? Qin Changshu couldn't make sense of it, but he had no doubts about the judgment of the Lord Governor and immediately did as instructed. Capital City. Duke Wuan Mansion. Within the courtyard, Fang Qingyun was playing chess with the 12th Prince, Cao Ji. After a game, Cao Ji shook his head repeatedly. Lost again, 100 games in a row, and I haven't won a single one against General Fang. Your Highness is improving rapidly, losing less and less. Fang Qingyun sorted the chess pieces. One day you will win, cough cough cough. General Fang. Your complexion has been getting worse recently. Cao Ji continually tossed and caught a white chess piece, asking, Should I go to the Imperial Hospital and invite those old fellows to have a look? It's useless. Fang Qingyun nodded, covered his mouth with his fist, and after a long while, managed to stop his coughing. An old injury from many years ago. It has already penetrated deep into my meridians and lungs. It's incurable, and I don't have many years left. That's really a pity for such talent. Chao Ji's tone carried a faint sympathy. The sudden outbreak of the battle in Luo State, I was even thinking of asking General Fang to go there for a while, but seeing this, it's better to ask the general to recuperate in the capital city. A mortal struggle among immortals. A disabled person like me going there would be useless, and besides, I really can't take the strain anymore. Fang Qingyun placed the last black piece into the chest basket. Let the capable ones handle it. You're referring to Chen Dusher, aren't you? Chao Ji chewed on some fruit preserves, sitting casually. I thought so too, but the cabinet this time seems to be preparing to cultivate new people, and they're not planning to use him and Hengze camp. Those people in the cabinet are merely afraid that my elder brother's merits will keep increasing and eventually become difficult to control, though in my opinion, there's really no need for that. Oh, Fang Qingyun joked. It seems if your highness were to manage the court affairs, would you fully trust my little disciple brother? More than that, Chao Ji naturally said. If it were up to me, why hide such a good general? Fight. Fight West Qi first, then fight Nansu, hand over half the troops of the world to him for management. First confer my elder brother as state duke, then as an aliased king, and leave him to guard the northern territory. You two, general, stay in Liangzhou. If you wish to contribute in the military, do so. If not, do whatever you want. After 100 years, it will also be a legend for the ages. Chapter 609, Western Expedition. Attack the Immortal. _3. Your Highness. It's no use trying to negotiate terms with me. Fang Qingyun slowly said. Our governor mansion has little clout, and we cannot be of much help to your highness. Look at how you talk. Chao Ji put his feet up on a recliner, lying back with a blade of grass in his mouth, and said leisurely, what's the use of power? In this world, the most valuable thing is great talent. As long as one has great talent, why worry about not having a kingdom and the world? It seems your highness is a wise ruler who respects the talented. Fang Qingyun paused. But if it's as you said, wouldn't your highness lose sleep over a peerless martial saint on the frontier who holds a heavy military force? Isn't that a narrow view? Chao Ji looked up at the sky. General Fang should know the saying, one must have a just cause to lead troops. When the whole world knows that the court holds a servant in high esteem, bestowing upon him countless graces, if he were to rebel, it would be tant to telling everyone that he was pretending all along and he will not gain momentum. Especially when this person is known to the world for benevolence and righteousness. It's impossible for him to do anything that contradicts benevolence and righteousness. The words benevolence and righteousness are good means to win people's hearts, but at the same time, they are also heavy shackles. The great general who willingly wears this shackle is truly a noble minister of ages, who simply could not do anything treasonous. Oh, this is my older brother's own theory on leading troops. Troops are about momentum. So, sometimes I really don't understand what those cabinet people are so suspicious about every day. Perhaps it's because they've offended your governor mansion too many times before, and they fear retribution, said Chao Ji. Upon hearing this statement, Fang Qingyun's gaze at the prince turned a few shades more serious. Despite your young age, your highness sees quite clearly. That's why. Chao Ji sat up, holding a chess piece. I've never been afraid of your governor mansion, especially after my elder brother became renowned throughout the world. There's even less to fear. The people of the governor mansion will always be loyal and valiant. Generation after generation, they are loyal ministers of our great Shang dynasty. That is a given. Fang Qingyun gestured for the prince to go ahead. Please, your highness. Let us start the next game, the 101st round. Some other day. Chao Ji stretched lazily. I need to visit the palace. With 3 nations surrounding us and crises at every turn, how could we withstand them with just a bunch of fools? I need to have a good argument with the cabinet and urgently call my elder brother back. Longevity Palace. Your Majesty. Huang Hong hurried over and reported. After ingesting the undying grass and elixir pills given by the Shangyun sect and enduring half a year of arduous cultivation, Prince Jiannan now has, behind the curtain, beneath the pedestal, lay spirit stones and the spirit-gathering array. Emperor Longqing was here convalescing, expelling the residual evil qi within his meridians. He slowly opened his eyes. So you're saying the dragon scripture is real? It should be real. Huang Hong got down on his knees slowly. But I've always been unable to cultivate it. And while practicing, I frequently encountered disruptions in the meridians. I dared not force it further, which resulted in a waste of such treasures, for which I am worthy of death. It seems. The dragon scripture can only be cultivated by those with extraordinary qualification. How is Luo State? Emperor Longqing asked. Everything has been arranged according to your majesty's plan, replied Huang Hong. This time, with the assistance of 2 disciples from the Shangyun sect and under the command of Tong Xiaochu, the Western expedition set out to retake the lost territories of the 2 states from the West Qi Kingdom. Emperor Longqing emphasized. The Tong family has been a loyal and valiant family for 10 generations in the great Shang dynasty. These old meritorious vassals have lain dormant for a century. I'm giving their descendants an opportunity. I hope they won't disappoint me. After this battle, I won't have to tolerate those so-called immortal masters anymore. If this battle doesn't succeed, Dongqing and Nansu will swarm us. Therefore, we must recover Mongshan in Luo state at any cost. I understand, Huang Hong said as he rose to his feet. I will make a trip to Zhongjua Hall immediately and bring the 6th Prince's and the Ministry of War's plans for your Majesty's inspection. Zhongjua Hall. The 6th Prince Chao Huan, along with the Chief Minister Yan Liang and the rest of the cabinet ministers from the Ministry of War, were all gathered here. In front of them lay a massive map and a sand table several zhang long. We will also gather a portion of the Hu Ben and Black Armor troops from the capital city, ready to depart at any moment for reinforcement. Additionally, each commander and camp soldiers in the southwest and northwest regions must also be prepared. If necessary, we can forfeit some state cities to support Yiling. Minister of War Ming Qingfeng arranged the frontline deployments methodically. Report. A soldier rushed into the hall, bringing the latest war reports from Yiling. Good, very good. After reading the report, Chao Huan said to everyone, after the immortal masters Wang Jun and Chu Yuanxiang arrived at the front, they quickly stabilized the situation, successively capturing several camps of the West Qi army. Now, the West Qi Kingdom's army has been holed up and not advancing for 2 months, like a turtle shrinking its head into its shell. General Tong and others have been consolidating their position steadily, setting up camp on Yiling Mountain while avoiding the summer heat. All we need to do is wait until autumn, when the Luo River's flow diminishes, affecting West Qi's supply lines via water transport. Then our army can swarm out, not only recovering Luo and Mu states but also directly advancing into West Qi territory. Excellent. Minister of Personnel Ming Chun rejoiced. West Qi would never have expected that not only do they have immortal masters, but so does our great Shang dynasty. Indeed. Yan Maoxing breathed a sigh of relief. Didn't West Qi also say that their summoned immortal master was some military immortal from somewhere, once unified 7 countries? Turns out to be a lot of thunder with little rain, as they've been cowering for 2 months from General Tong's forces without daring to show their faces. Chapter 610 Western Expedition, Strike the Immortal. _4. Military immortal? More like turtle immortal. Ming Chun teased, prompting a burst of laughter from several ministers. As long as the situation is stable, that's good. Minister of War Ming Qingfeng, with a bow toward the direction of Longevity Palace, said, if we win this battle, our great dashing has the chance to unify the entire world within the next 20 years. Moreover, this is a beneficial opportunity to foster new generals. You're right. Ming Chun added, that Chun Sanxi's refusal to enter the capital implies that he harbors other intentions. Under such circumstances, we absolutely must not let him continue to earn military merits. What filial piety! Yan Maoxing spoke bluntly. In my opinion, he's nothing but trying to amass troops for his own strength. Ming Qingfeng stroked his chin whiskers. After this battle is fought well, it will also let him realize that he's not the only general capable of leading troops in battle for the Shang dynasty. He really shouldn't overestimate his own importance. How is the situation in Liangzhou? Still in closed-door meditation. The soldier reported. Let him continue his meditation. We won't need him for the battle anyway. This is imprudent. Amidst the discussion, a voice abruptly interrupted. 12th Prince Chao Ji strode into the hall like a shooting star. My suggestion is to urgently request General Chun to come out of retirement. For this battle, it would be best if General Chun leads his Hongza camp to set off for Yiling immediately. 12th brother. Chao Huan seemed a little surprised by his appearance. What do you mean by that? It's of great importance. Chao Ji used the sword at his waist to point at the sand table. Dongqing and Nansu are both sitting on the fence, watching. Once the great Shang dynasty suffers losses in the west, they will swarm over us, and then we will be facing a coalition of 3 kingdoms. Even if our Shang dynasty mobilizes 1,000,000 soldiers, I fear they are no match for the combined forces of the 3 kingdoms. Please wait, Your Highness. Ming Qingfeng interjected. What Your Highness has said is well understood by us all. However, as of now, the front line under the leadership of General Tong and the Immortal Master has been progressing steadily. We only need to wait until after autumn for a guaranteed victory. So why must we call for Chun Sanxi? It's quite simple. Chao Ji spread his hands open. As of now, none in dashing surpass General Chun in military strategy. This battle is of great significance, and only by transferring him there can we ensure absolute success. Could Your Highness be overestimating Chun Sanxi? Ming Qingfeng tapped his fingers on the map. Please look, Your Highness, even without Chun Sanxi, our army has been winning consecutive battles, holding the upper hand. All we need to do is wait for the right opportunity to fight. Who is the West Qi Immortal Master Han Xiang? He is the one who once annihilated 7 states. Do you really think he would just sit and wait for death? Chao Ji persuaded. It is still better to let the Master of War of our great Shang dynasty face the military immortal. Your Highness, I have something to say. Ming Qingfeng, with a stern look and somewhat agitated, said, My arrangements for this battle as the Minister of War are not to target Chen Sansi, nor is it out of so-called jealousy of the talented. He and I have neither grudges nor enmities, and I have no reason to seek discomfort. My decision not to employ General Chen is solely for the court's consideration. Looking back at the annals of 1,000 years, when has any dynasty ever had to rely on one man for every battle, big or small? Continuing like this, what precedent are we setting? Let me be even more blunt. With each plea to General Chen by Your Highness, are we to believe that our great Shang dynasty is on the brink of downfall? Watching his impassioned question, Cao Ji simply replied with 2 words. Hard to say. How could Your Highness say such a thing? Ming Qingfeng was somewhat annoyed, but because of his status, he dared not argue with him. Younger brother, you are being too harsh. In the end, it was Prince Regent Chao Huan who said in a deep voice, among all the nobles present, not a single one is denying General Chen's talent and ability to lead troops, but as Lord Ming said, a court can absolutely not rely on one person. If anyone must be mentioned, it can only be His Majesty. It is our father, the Emperor. 12th Prince, you need not worry so much. Yan Maoxing said, we know you also consider the welfare of society, but it is unnecessary. One only needs to quietly wait for the good news. Tsk tisk. Cao Ji gently shook his head. Ladies and gentlemen, then follow your own will. Yiling, supervising the Standard Army. Central Army Tent. Astride the command seat, Chu Yuanxiang spat out the wine he had just sipped, bursting into rage. What kind of swill is this, daring to fool your immortal master grandpa? Immortal master, please calm your anger, a soldier tremblingly said. This is already the treasure medicine wine that only the generals above mysterious phenomenon can drink. We simply don't have anything better in the mortal world. Then go find it for me. Chu Yuanxiang cursed loudly, hurling the wine jar at the soldier. If you can't find a wine I can stomach by tonight, I'll chop off your dog head, immortal master grandpa will. Yes. The soldier's head began to bleed immediately, and without daring to object, he hurriedly left the tent to search for wine. I'm busting my back fighting their wars, and they can't even provide a decent drink. Chu Yuanxiang grumbled and cursed. By his side, Wang Jun, who had been resting with closed eyes, opened his eyes and disdainfully glanced at him. Noisy! Isn't it true? Chu Yuanxiang glared as he spoke. If it weren't for you and me, brothers, those so-called dogs, hit generals would have had their heads sent flying long ago. Seize Mang Mountain ancestor vein, and we will have our foundation establishment pills. Wang Jun said coldly, take this seriously, it's important for both of us. Next to the large tent, there stood another tent purposely built a bit smaller to highlight the difference in status. This is too much, Deputy General Teng Lu, with his hand on the hilt of his sword, paced back and forth in anger. That drunken immortal master is beating and scolding our soldiers day and night. Chapter 611, Western Expedition. Attack the Immortal. _5. Even you and I can't get the slightest bit of respect. It's as if they don't even consider us human. They are immortal masters, destined to seek immortality in the future. Naturally a cut above us, that's quite normal. While eating his meal, Tong Xiaochu's gaze fixed on the map in front of him. Moreover, without the 2 immortal masters holding fort, we wouldn't have been able to make it here so smoothly. Be that as it may. Teng Lu wanted to complain further, but Tong Xiaochu didn't listen and quickly interjected. How's the situation with West Qi? The same as before. Teng Lu responded. No matter how we provoke or challenge them, they refuse to show themselves. It seems we won't be able to overcome them anytime soon. No matter, this was part of our plan all along. Tong Xiaochu put down his eating utensils. In 2 or 3 months, the enemy army will naturally retreat 500 miles due to supply issues. That's when we'll seize the opportunity to press our attack and take them down in one fell swoop. Start preparing now. You first withdraw 20,000 troops from this location. Report. Just as he was about to strategize, a soldier rushed into the tent in a fluster. What's the matter? Tong Xiaochu, somewhat displeased. How many times have I said that we, as military men, must remain calm in the face of changes? How will you lead troops like this? Speak, what is it? Is there a troop movement from the military department?
No.
The soldier held up an unopened letter. A secret missive from the Liangzhou governor's mansion. Governor mansion? Tong Xiaochu paused, frowning slightly. What does Chen Sansi want with writing letters? This battle has nothing to do with him. It's a gold-sealed secret letter. Only the commander is qualified to read it. The soldier stated, a letter of this level definitely concerns the overall situation of this battle. I am the commander of this battle. What need is there for him to give instructions? Holding the unopened letter and staring at the gold seal, Tong Xiaochu found it unbearably irksome. This Chen Sansi is really taking himself too seriously, isn't he? General Tong. Teng Lu advised. Why not take a look? General Chen is after all a master of military strategy. This battle is critically important. It's always good to consider some suggestions. Are you suggesting that I don't understand warfare? Tong Xiaochu huffed coldly. Go look at the Qilin Pavilion next to the Ziwei Mountain Temple. My Tong family ancestors are ranked 4th among the 12 marshals, renowned for their tactics 300 years ago. I admit that Chun is formidable. But my sword is sharp too. He spoke as he placed the still unopened letter over the flame of a candle, letting it catch fire from the bottom before casually tossing it on the ground. Tung Lu, you take 500 light cavalry with me to Yiling, to scout the terrain ahead. Alright, I'll go now. Tung Lu left, having no other choice. And just when he led his men into the darkness and no one else was inside the tent, Tong Xiaochu hurriedly stamped out the flames on the letter, quickly bent over to pick up the envelope, carefully opened it, and after confirming most of the content was undamaged, he let out a long sigh of relief. How could he possibly not read Chen Sanxi's suggestions? His earlier display was merely for show. He was the commander of this battle, his prestige was paramount. If he opened the letter in front of everyone and found its contents different from his plans, necessitating quick changes, wouldn't that be openly telling everyone, Chen Sanxi saved me? Then his hard-won authority and control over the military would vanish. But on the contrary, if he viewed it in private, any good advice could be claimed as his own idea after he adopted it. That way, in the eyes of others, he would be no less than the white robe. It's about creating momentum for oneself. Warfare is all about momentum. Not only is it useful in battle but also in other aspects where one must use momentum to their advantage. Ever since the 4 crossings of Hengze, Tong Xiaochu had been closely monitoring every military move of the white robe, and he was immersed day and night in the study of tactics, integrating it with what he had learned all his life. The Tong family had been dormant for too many years. Now that an opportunity to distinguish themselves had come, they would certainly grasp it tightly. But he wondered what the white robe was writing about at this time. Tong Xiaochu was curious. He believed there was nothing wrong with his deployment of the supervisory troops, a steady and secure strategy, merely needing to buy time for the ultimate victory. But Chen Sanxi's letter at this time meant he must see an issue with his arrangement. Looking at it couldn't hurt. With that thought, Tong Xiaochu began to scrutinize every word of the letter. Suddenly, he felt a heaviness in his heart. This is bad. In the West Qi Army campsite, inside the central army tent, a man dressed in a white robe, exuding both elegance and an ethereal aura, sat in front of a chessboard. He slowly placed a chess piece down, his voice serene and lingering. Life is like a game of chess, and so is warfare. Commanding a battle is like playing a chess game. The generals of both sides are the chess players, and the troops under their command are the chess pieces. I used to get so excited to face a strong player that I couldn't sleep. Regrettably, ever since Mr. Han unified the 7 countries 30 years ago and stepped onto the immortal path, my days were confined to meditation and cultivation, deprived of chess-playing opportunities. Mr. Han had thought that there would never again be a game of chess in this life, but to his surprise, here on the eastern continent, an excellent game of chess emerges. Clack! As the black piece held between his slender fingers landed, his counterpart, Marshal St. Zhong Wuxin, showed a wry smile. Ha, I've lost again. I'm truly no match for the immortal master. Of course, you're not my opponent. Chapter 612, Western Expedition, Attack the Immortal, _6. Han Xiang spoke faintly. However, in this eastern continent, there is indeed a formidable player. Above the desk behind them, 2 volumes of books were placed. One was the military treatise Tactics. The other was the biography of Chen Sanxi. Whoosh! Han Xiang casually tossed the chess piece in his palm into the chess basket and said indifferently, Boring? Playing chess with you mediocrities is truly uninspiring. You may leave. Yes, immortal master. Zhong Wuxin left the tent with his head lowered, and when he reached a secluded spot, he spat on the ground. This is too much. Do they really think we are just pawns in his hands? Isn't that the truth? Deputy General Gong Yu followed up. That Han Xiang is so arrogant, in his eyes we don't even count as people. If he's really that great, why doesn't he just kill the Shang's army of 200,000 by himself? Why does he need us to fight? I really don't know if these immortal masters coming to our states is a good or bad thing. Zhong Wuxin sighed and said, Moreover, if we continue to drag this out, the supply line from the rear will become problematic. If you ask me, Gong Yu clenched his fist and said, if we dispatch 10,000 light cavalry on each flank, taking advantage of the supervising army's advance, and directly loop around from Jingxing Road for a pincer attack, we could at least throw them into disarray. But the immortal master insists on making me a shrinking turtle. I really don't understand his intentions. Report. Commander. A message from the scouts at the front. In the midst of the conversation, the scouts reported. After reading the note, Zhong Wuxin still decided to report in person. He returned to the tent and said, Immortal Master Han, the Shang's supervising army has set up camp in the Yiling area, and their encampment is quite fortified. It will be difficult for us to push forward from here on. It would be better to retreat west of the Luo River for now. Continuing like this is really disadvantageous to our forces. Wait, what did you say? Han Xiang put down the tactics in his hand and inquired. You said, where did the supervising army set up camp? Yiling. Worried that the opponent was unfamiliar with the terrain here, Zhong Wuxin added, Yiling is easy to defend and hard to attack, and they can use it to escape the summer heat. With the supply line also secure, if we try to send a surprise force from behind now, I'm afraid it's already too late. Unexpectedly, before he could finish his words, he saw Han Xiang sneer, his eyes filled with disdain. Mediocrities, oh mediocrities, tell me, how do you, such mediocrities, dare to lead tens or even hundreds of thousands of troops into battle? The more, the better, is not a principle that applies to everyone. The most you people can competently command is around 10,000 troops. Immortal Master. Zhong Wuxin felt extremely disgruntled inside, but he dared not show it. I am obtuse, Immortal Master. If you have a deeper stratagem, please do tell. The extreme summer heat, the climate in your Liang state is dry, with such tinderbox conditions. That boy with the surname Tong wouldn't dare to camp in the forest. Han Xiang threw down the scroll, suddenly rose to his feet. 200,000 enemy troops are now ashes. Zhong Wuxin, select 20,000 men from the left and right armies. Split into 6 groups. Following the small paths I marked with a fine red brush on the map. Directly charge into the Shengren army camp to set fire. Deputy General Gong Yu, you lead 30,000 troops. Set an ambush 200 li to the east in the canyon. Leave 50,000 troops to guard the camp, to prepare for any unexpected events. All others must immediately break camp, heading straight for Yiling. Yes. That night, midnight, the sweltering darkness was filled with the relentless chirping of cicadas. The soldiers of Dashing had stripped to the waist, with armor and weapons all cast aside at a distance, trying every possible way to cool off. Yet the temperature kept rising, and it wasn't until the sound of crackling flames and the screams of their comrades rang out that they were jolted awake. To their horror, they saw flames soaring into the sky amidst the woods. It's on fire! It's on fire! Put out the fire! There was naturally water prepared within the camp. However, with the weather being hot and dry grass covering the ground, with the camp and the tents made from locally sourced timber, all highly flammable, let alone the raging inferno, even a tiny spark could cause ignition, and any amount of water poured over it was like throwing a cup of water on a cartload of wood. The fire spread uncontrollably, illuminating the area for hundreds of li around as bright as day, while billowing black smoke rose into the sky, appearing as a dark jiao long. The 800 li connected camps. One fire, thoroughly eradicated. Enemy attack. There's an enemy attack. Amidst the flames, the soldiers of Dashing saw the densely packed West Qi army charging at them. In their panic, they cast away their helmets and armor, and countless died. Brilliant strategy, truly brilliant. The reassembled Zhong Wuxin couldn't stop praising. Immortal Master Han. I understand now. Your continuous retreat, refusing to battle decisively with the enemy, was to lure them deep into our territory. You had anticipated early on they would set up camp in the strategically advantageous Yiling. Or rather, it was you who arranged it such that they had no choice but to camp there. No other options whatsoever. Then, it only took one fire to turn their 800 li stretch of camps into flying ash. Military immortal, truly worthy of the title military immortal. Not quite. Han Xiang's expression was still as calm as a still lake. He rode his sword up into the air and looked down upon the raging fire, noticing that many of the camps stretching over 800 li were in fact empty. Report. Indeed, a soldier immediately came to report. The majority of Dashing's supervising army, as if notified in advance, had already retreated. Only the 20,000 troops of the vanguard did not receive the notice and were still within the camp. Chapter 613. Military Immortal versus Master of War. Fled. Gong Yu furrowed his brows. Haven't they just set up camp in the past few days? They've just stabilized and now they're withdrawing. Could it be that someone leaked information to them? No, that's not right. Even we didn't know in advance, so it wouldn't have been possible. It must have been Tong Xiaochu who realized something. Zhong Wuxin said gravely, as the saying goes, it's never too late to mend the fold after the sheep have been lost. This is not the doing of young Master Tong. The situation went unexpectedly, but Han Xiang was neither annoyed nor angry. Instead, his eyes sparkled with excitement. The real player has finally arrived. A player? Zhong Wuxin asked, Immortal Master, are you suggesting Chan Sansi? Has he come? Impossible. Gong Yu stated confidently, according to the information we've received. The Shang court is worried that Chan Sansi's meritorious service might overshadow the ruler. They haven't employed him this time. Currently, most of the Bailiang army has been dispatched to the eastern front. Yet Chan Sansi and his Hengze camp are still stationed within Liangzhou. You know. Han Xiang looked in the direction of the distant fires, his tone as if he controlled everything. When a powerful player finds an exquisite game waiting for him, he will sit down no matter what, especially when he sees a mediocrity currently occupying the position. Immortal Master, it's good news that Chan Sansi isn't coming, Zhong Wuxin hurriedly stated. The urgent task right now is for us to pursue our victories. Immortal Master, please give your orders. This time, Han Xiang, with hands behind his back and strolling leisurely, said, Although the young Master Tong was abruptly awakened by Chun Sansi's reminder and promptly withdrew most of his troops, they didn't have time to remove their supplies and provisions. In their hasty retreat, they will definitely try to set up an ambush to obstruct the pursuing forces, and the location of the ambush will be at Yellow Wind Ridge on Jingxing Road. Zhong Wuxin, you lead the light cavalry to skirt around to the rear of Yellow Wind Ridge and attack from the east as soon as you see the fire. After this, General Tong has been defeated twice in a row. Tong Xiaochu will certainly be desperate to stabilize the situation. Hence, he will retreat another 200 li to the east, trying to regroup at Lisha Prefecture fortified by a moat. The city's defender Yu Biao has a son, a top grade with spirit root, whom I have already taken as a disciple. Yu Biao's hesitation in defecting to us was because he thought General Tong would prevail. Now that he has seen Tong Xiaochu beaten, he will definitely defect immediately. Lisha Prefecture is impenetrable. Tong Xiaochu will then have to turn to the nearby Shanhua Prefecture. But by this point, having been defeated 3 times, young Master Tong is certainly out of his wits. Zhong Wuxin, you merely need to take a detachment to take a shortcut and appear 50 li outside Shanhua Prefecture, boldly flying the flag of Desu. He will be utterly terrified and continue to flee along the roads, all the way to Cloud Top Prefecture, where they will barely hold on with additional reinforcements and natural defenses. By then, he will have retreated 1,000 li, losing 100,000 troops. As he spoke, he predicted everything that would happen in the next 2 months, as if the opponent would definitely act according to his plan. Yes, I'll go arrange it now. Zhong Wuxin did not dare question him, and even if he did, it would be useless. He could only follow the instructions to the letter. Jingxing Road. 2 days ago, 200,000 General Tong's troops began their retreat. A massive formation that from a distance appeared endless, spanning from heaven to earth. Chu Yuanxiang, sitting on horseback, tossed aside liquor found by the soldiers and started cursing. Wang Jun, meanwhile, occasionally flew up high to scout, watching to see if Nansu had dispatched cultivators to pursue them. General Tong. Tong Lu looked back at the wildfire that had burned for 2 days and nights without stopping and was still spreading. With a shiver, he said, "Fortunate are we that you ordered the retreat a day earlier. Otherwise, the 800 li of continuous camps and 200,000 troops might have all turned to ash. I just don't know why General Tong suddenly changed his mind." This. Tong Xiaochu pretended to be calm and said, "That night, while watching the candle flame, a flash of insight led me to guess that the enemy might employ a fire attack. Thus I ordered the retreat. Thank goodness General Tong reacts swiftly, thwarting the Soldier Immortal's schemes. It seems this so-called Soldier Immortal is nothing much after all." Tong Lu inquired further, "General Tong, what should we do next?" "First, we pull back, find a place to regroup and resupply," Tong Xiaochu ordered. "Also, I'm sure that the Soldier Immortal Han Xiang will try to capitalize on his victory. So send a detachment to Yellow Wind Ridge to set an ambush. We're bound to reap some gains." "Yes." Tong Lu received the order and left. Tong Xiaochu secretly wiped the cold sweat from his palms on the horse's mane. That Han Xiang, using the intense heat of the heavenly phenomenon, had feigned retreat as an advance, step by step luring them to the Yiling region, forcing them to encamp in the wilderness. Then he created the false impression of a shrinking turtle, making them underestimate the enemy. If it weren't for a letter from Chun Sansi, he feared, he and his 200,000 troops would have all been buried in Yiling. Commanding large armies in battle is truly not an easy task. Only now did Tong Xiaochu truly understand what the phrase incompetence of a general costs the lives of countless subordinates really meant. As a commander, any minor mistake could cost innumerable lives of his subordinates. This pressure was like a mountain. Luckily, having escaped the great fire of Yiling, there would be no large-scale collapse for the time being, and he could settle down to properly contend with that Soldier Immortal Han Xiang. 20 days later, capital city, Zhongjua Hall. Report. Urgent report. Chapter 614. Military Immortal versus Master of War _2. The soldiers frantically delivered the intelligence into the hall. "We've been defeated at the front." 20 days ago, the Soldier Immortal Han Xiang from Nansu set fire to the 800 li encampment at Yiling with a burst of fierce flame. "What?" Upon hearing this, the Minister of War, Ming Qing, first realized, then pounded his chest in frustration. "Foolish! We've been so foolish. Our distance from Luozhou is too great, causing us to overlook the dry and hot climate of the Yiling region. It's true that setting up camp by the mountains and fields can both provide shelter from the heat and utilize the terrain for stability, but if the enemy uses fire against us, wouldn't our army be reduced to ashes?" Fortunately, Tong Xiaochu noticed the signs in time and withdrew early, preventing greater losses. A close call, a close call. Prince Regent Chao Huan breathed a sigh of relief. Tong Xiaochu truly lives up to the legacy of the Tong family, skilled in the use of troops. It's just a pity that, just as we had pushed forward to Yiling, we had to pull back again. At this rate, who knows when we will be able to recapture the 2 states. "Why haven't you invited General Chan yet?" On one side of the hall, Chao Ji lay back in a chair, eating chilled watermelon. "It's still not too late to ask for help. No need for that. Ming Qingfeng raised his hand. Tong Xiaochu's ability to see through the military immortal strategy and withdraw from Yiling already proves his capability is no less than that of the military immortal. I believe he will surely stabilize the situation afterward. Lord Ming is right. Yin Mingchun agreed. This is enough to prove that our great Shang dynasty has plenty of young talent. A collapse over 1,000 miles. A collapse over 1,000 miles indeed. Chao Ji casually discarded the watermelon rind. 12th brother. How can you repeatedly demoralize our troops? Chao Huan said displeased. If you keep talking like this, brother, I might just have to punish you in anger. All right. Chao Ji said. Just wait and see. The defeat at Yiling is just the beginning. General Tong. It's bad, General Tong. Just as we arrived at Yellow Wind Ridge, the enemy was already prepared. We were the ones ambushed. At Yellow Wind Ridge, we lost 8,000 troops. One mysterious phenomenon and 2 Meridian Passage were killed in action. Another force of the West Qi army has already moved early to the end of Jingxing Road, about to outflank us. If we don't think of something soon, we won't be able to leave this place. General Tong. What should we do, General Tong? Looking at the retreating, defeated soldiers, Tong Xiaochu's forehead broke out in large cold sweat. His voice trembling. Quick! Bring the map. Rustle. 2 soldiers unfurled the map before him. Lishur Prefecture. After a quick decision, Tong Xiaochu brought his fingers together and pointed to a city on the map. We abandon the main road and take the side paths to Lishur Prefecture. With its sturdy city walls, abundant supplies, and the protection of a moat, and considering the dry summer and fall, we need not worry about them flooding the city. This will definitely help our troops stabilize the situation. Brilliant foresight, General Tong. Quick! Let's set off. Inform the vanguard to change direction. Heading to Lishur Prefecture. 15 days later. Before Prefecture City. General Tong, there's serious trouble. The commander of Prefecture City, Yu Biao, absolutely refuses to open the gates and let us enter the city. What? Tong Xiaochu's face changed dramatically. He personally galloped to the front of the city gate, drew his sword from his waist, and demanded harshly, Yu Biao, have you lost your mind? Open the gates at once. General Tong. Above on the city tower, a middle-aged general called down loudly, I must confess, you has already sworn allegiance to the Desu Immortal Master. In consideration of our past friendship, I won't combat you with sword and spear for one day, but if General Tong hasn't left this place by tomorrow, then I will have no choice but to join Desu in annihilating you all. You. Tong Xiaochu's neck turned red, and veins bulged out. He hadn't expected that the city behind them would turn against them and join the enemy. But there was nothing he could do. With blockades ahead and pursuers behind, there was no way they could stay and attack Prefecture City. Shanhua Prefecture. In his desperate ingenuity, Tong Xiaochu said, Quick! Tell everyone to head to Shanhua Prefecture immediately. Shanhua Prefecture. It was the last stronghold that could stabilize the situation. The army of 200,000 changed their route again. How is it? Tong Xiaochu asked the officer responsible for intelligence. Have you received any new secret messages from the governor mansion lately? If so, give them to me, and I'll personally burn them. General Tong, there are none. Tong Xiaochu took a deep breath, feeling the pressure increasing. But he thought about it. The war situation was changing every day. Chen Sansi, thousands of miles away, ultimately wasn't a divine calculator. He couldn't foresee everything, much less continuously provide him with brilliant strategies. But fortunately, once they reached Shanhua Prefecture, even if West Qi had many more troops on their heels, they would be at a loss. The army changed routes. Again, 10,000 rearguards were lost. Another 20 days passed. The governor's troops finally neared their destination. Report. Just when they were only a few dozen miles away from Shanhua Prefecture, a blood-covered scout stumbled back to the central army. It's bad, General Tong. Shanhua Prefecture has also surrendered.
Impossible.
Tong Xiaochu said, the commander of Shanhua Prefecture, like me, is a descendant of one of the 12 marshals from the era of the Kailan Hall. Even if his family has fallen into decline, he is still of 10 generations of loyal martyrs. How could he possibly join the enemy? Commander, it's true. The scout, who had been scared out of his wits from fleeing, stuttered. The road ahead is the only way leading to Shanhua Prefecture, and it's covered with West Qi's army flags. It's hard to estimate the exact number of troops, but the force is massive, surely numbering over 50,000. Tong Xiaochu's eyes twitched uncontrollably, and for a moment, he was speechless. General Tong, it must be true. Chapter 6:15. Military Immortal versus Master of War _3. A dust-covered Tang Lu said, otherwise, how could the West Qi Kingdom's army appear ahead of us? Don't they fear that the city's defenders and our forces will attack them from both front and back? As for loyalty, those from Qing country who were once hailed as loyal warriors over 7 generations ultimately surrendered to the White Robe. These people simply wish to exchange their loyalty for a higher position. General Tong, order the retreat quickly, or we'll have no chance to escape. Retreat further. Tong Xiaochu grabbed the map, Looking at their current location, he heavily swallowed. If we retreat further, there will be no fortified city left behind to defend. We would have to keep retreating to the east of Cloud Top Prefecture. Meaning, the whole state would be lost. He had led the troops for 2 months, smoothly losing a state. We still have to retreat, Tang Lu insisted. Otherwise, our remaining army of 160,000 will all be sacrificed here. Let's retreat. Tong Xiaochu clenched his teeth and threw the map to the ground. Despite this, they were continuously ambushed during their retreat. Trouble, Commander. There's an ambush ahead. Commander, we lost 8,000 men. Lost 5,000 men and a general. Lost 20,000. Commander, the front has collapsed. There are enemy soldiers everywhere. It was a continuous retreat. No matter where they went, they encountered ambushes. The great Shang forces continued losing men and officers as they retreated eastward. A route spanning 1,000 miles. After 1,000 miles, the defeated army finally managed to rest in a valley. But suddenly, the sound of wind and the cry of cranes arose. The forces thought it was the enemy catching up and fled in panic again. Every time they passed through forests and came across rustling sounds, they assumed it was another ambush. It became a case of, every bush and tree looks like an enemy. Commander, urgent news from Shanhua Prefecture. They have not rebelled. They haven't rebelled? During the retreat, they received this belated information. Tong Xiaochu almost fell off his horse in frustration. Han Xiang is so cunning. He felt a suffocating pain in his chest, unresolved and intense. He cursed the immortal master under his breath, but his body was already stretched to the limit. Even breathing became increasingly difficult, and he felt bouts of darkness before his eyes. It was the oppression from the military immortal. The battle had reached this point. Tong Xiaochu felt as if everything between heaven and earth had turned into a chessboard. His opponent was an invisible hand controlling everything. He should have been sitting opposite as the player, but somehow he had also become just another piece on the board. General Tong, you're okay, right? Tang Lu noticed something was wrong and quickly went to support him. I'm fine. Tong Xiaochu took deep breaths and after a long while, he recovered. His voice weak as if he had just recovered from a severe illness. Keep retreating. Another 10 days passed. The forces completely gave up the state and retreated to Cloud Top Prefecture in Jiazhou, finally stemming the tide of defeat. From then on, out of 200,000 troops, only half remained. Less than half a year into the war in West Territory, they had continuously lost 3 states. Quick, here's my resignation, Tong Xiaochu said, no longer caring about the details. Send it to the Ministry of War with the utmost urgency through 10,000 miles Divine Eagle, and ask them to urgently request Chen Dusher to take command. Capital City, Zhongjua Hall. For 20 consecutive days. Every day a different report of defeat was delivered here. Ambushed at Yellow Wind Ridge, our army was utterly defeated. The commander of Lisher Prefecture betrayed. Our army was utterly defeated. What is happening? What is going on? Ming Qingfeng angrily threw the petition on the ground. What is Tong Xiaochu doing? Before the burning of Yiling, wasn't everything commanded well and steadily? Why has he suddenly changed completely? He should be executed. You're right. He must be executed. Yan Maoxing burst forth in anger. 40,000! To raise 40,000 soldiers, the court has spent so many years and so much silver, and in less than 2 months, he has squandered it all. And he's even from the Tong family of the Qilin Pavilion. If I were him, I'd have no face to continue living. We should execute him, but... Chao Huan, whose hair had whitened significantly, sighed. Under the current circumstances, who can we use if we execute him? Prince Jiannan is currently dealing with the bandits of Nansu, and he has just accepted a group of bandits into his ranks, so he simply cannot be mobilized in the short term. If we must, should we call Lu Ji over? The Minister of Revenue suggested.
Louis?
In the end, isn't he also a man of the governor mansion? Yin Mingchun objected. This war is still intended to cultivate newer military leaders, isn't it? What about Su Wenkai? The Minister of Revenue recommended. This man is unrivaled in intelligence and might be able to match Han Xiang. To send him into death without being a martial saint? Ming Qingfeng shook his head. Su Wencai's intelligence is commendable, but after all, he's just a scholar without any real combat strength. This war has already involved immortals. If someone isn't even at the martial saint realm, he likely won't even know how he died. I've told you before. Chao Ji, lying on a cool mat with 2 palace maids fanning him, said, invite General Chun over. No! Ming Qingfeng vehemently refused, fuming. Are we from the great Shang dynasty truly helpless without Chan Sansi? Let's wait. Give Tong Xiaochu another chance. Tell him. He must stabilize the situation quickly. Alas! Seeing this, Chao Ji just shook his head and sighed, not saying anything more. 20 more days passed. As reports of defeat arrived one after another, the faces of the Prince Regent and the cabinet ministers grew uglier by the day. General Tong suffered setbacks in Shanhua Prefecture, forcing him to withdraw from the state. Along the way, they were constantly ambushed. Chapter 616. Military Immortal versus Master of War _4. The winds howl and the cranes shriek. Everywhere, soldiers hide in the grass. Until 10 days ago, General Tong had just reached the vicinity of Cloud Top Prefecture and stabilized the situation. Now, 200,000 troops have suffered over 50% casualties, and the entire region of Bottle State is lost. Crack. Upon hearing the last letter of the battle report, the teacup in the hands of Prince Regent Chao Huan slipped and shattered into countless pieces on the ground as he nearly blacked out and fell backwards, only to be promptly supported by 2 eunuchs, preventing his fall. The cabinet ministers, especially those from the Ministry of Military, had ashen faces. Useless. Tong Xiaochu is useless. Yan Maoxing was furious. We sent him to lead the troops to reclaim the Luo and Shepherd states, and in less than 3 months, not only has he failed to recover any lost territory, but he has also lost another state. 200,000 troops had a casualty of 100,000. Is he a pig? This time, appointing Tong Xiaochu was one of his recommendations. He too must take responsibility for such a massive defeat. After his extreme anger subsided, Ming Qingfeng calmly analyzed the entire battle on sand and map tables. Even from miles away, he felt a profound sense of powerlessness.
Han Xiang.
It was too terrifying. All the strategies, locked together perfectly, leaving no room for any response. He had to ask himself, even if it were not Tong Xiaochu on the front line but himself, Ming Qingfeng, he definitely would not stand a chance either. The most horrifying fact was feeling Han Xiang's leisurely demeanor. Not only did he win, but he did so with ease. If it were likened to a game of chess, it was akin to a grandmaster, ranked at the top in the entire world, teaching a child just learning to play. The difference wasn't just vast. It was monumental. He truly is the military immortal, the once conqueror of 7 states. This time, they in the Great Shang dynasty were facing a true military immortal. Not only was his strategic skill unrivaled, but his personal combat power was also extremely high. Who among them could possibly stand up to such an opponent? Perhaps. Yin Mingchun spoke up. Why not call General Ji, Su Wenkai, and General Fong, who is resting in Capital City? The 3 of them together might stand a chance against Han Xiang. That's not good. Ming Qingfeng's face was filled with worry. If Ji and Su Wenkai are both transferred, what to do about the East? Leave it empty. Quickly. While the officials were in heated discussion, the frail voice of Prince Regent rose, settling the choice of commander for this battle. Quick, send for White Robe to take command in Liangzhou. Meanwhile, as the battle continued, Chun Sansi was also traveling by a large ship via water route, returning to Liangzhou. In the cabin, a blue spiritual pearl floated in the air, releasing bursts of spiritual energy. A man in a white robe and a young girl in a yellow dress sat opposite each other, each cultivating. Chun Sansi's hands were sealing, and every so often above his fingers, a purple small sword would condense. As time went by, the number of these swords kept increasing, looking more and more like the real thing until script started glowing on the sword blades, and the panel silently emerged. Magic, 1,000 swords from heaven. Second tier. Progress. 0/2000. Utility. Store 20 swords. Originally, his sword chi skill could only pre-accumulate up to 10 swords, but after his breakthrough, that number doubled. Without a moment's rest, Chun Sansi began to practice another spell next. In front of him floated a shield composed of the earth element's spiritual energy drawn from between heaven and earth, appearing from a distance like a solid black earthen wall. Crack! Suddenly, cracks appeared on the wall, spreading rapidly and soon covering the entire wall as the gaps swiftly widened until the wall was thoroughly segmented into irregularly shaped earth blocks. However, the wall didn't crumble because of this. Instead, dazzling golden light burst from between these blocks, holding them all together. This shield, far from being weakened by the appearance of cracks, emitted a peculiar vibration of mana. Spell, Thick Earth Decision, Proficiency. Progress, 0/1000. Utility, Rebound. Rebound, to a certain extent, it reflects the opponent's magic back at them. Rebound, but the specific utility still needed to be tested. Little good for nothing. Chun Sansi flicked his finger on the forehead of the girl opposite him, who was still meditating. Startled from her meditation, Zhao Zhao woke up in pain. Before she could complain in annoyance, Chun Sansi said, "Try casting a spell on me to see how it works." Eh? Zhao Zhao's movement of rubbing her forehead froze, her eyes lighting up. "You won't fight back?" "I won't," Chun Sansi assured. Okay. Zhao Zhao hurriedly stood up, her movements somewhat awkward as she formed sealing hands. A blue small sword slowly condensed above her delicate hands, emitting a clear hum in front of her. Sword chi skill. On the way, Chun Sansi had casually taught her.
Mana Fluctuation.
The sword chi burst out suddenly. In front of Chun Sansi, a wall filled with golden cracks rose. Buzz! When the sword chi struck it, it immediately rebounded back as if a stone had hit a wall. Zhao Zhao, who had not expected this at all, acted quickly to summon her flying sword to strike. The two collided. The sword chi dispersed, but she also fell down with a plop, feeling like her bottom was shattered into pieces. Thanks. Slam. Chun Sansi immediately shut the cabin door, locking her out and ignoring her subsequent stomping. He returned to his cushion, recalling the details of the recent event. Rebound also had its limits. It depended on the cultivation level. If the opponent's cultivation was higher than his own, the rebound would be ineffective. Chapter 617. Military Immortal versus Master of War _5. On the contrary, when fighting against someone of the same realm, it can have a significant role. After breaking through with both spells, Chun Sansi then took out Swallowing Fire technique. He quickly digested the content with the help of the Jade Scroll. After swallowing a yellow dragon pill, he closed his eyes and concentrated, officially beginning his cultivation. Within the cabin, threads of spiritual energy, drawn by the spirit root, entered his body and circulated through the meridian cycle, refining within the meridians before finally turning into stored spiritual power in the dantian. What was different now was, Chun Sansi could clearly feel that his cultivation speed had increased significantly. Among his 5 element spirit roots, metal, wood, water, and earth had all fallen into dormancy, leaving only the lower-grade fire spirit root active. If all the spirit roots were to be compared to saplings and nature's spiritual energy to nutrients, then normally when Chun Sansi cultivated, the same amount of nutrients would need to simultaneously nourish 5 saplings. But after cultivating the Swallowing Fire technique, only 1 fire sapling needed to be nourished, with efficiency naturally many times higher. Moreover, Chun Sansi could clearly feel that the spirit root was truly growing. If this continued, he would grow each time he broke through the early stage, middle stage, and later stage of chi refining, and he wouldn't need too much time to become a single spirit root genius. The immortal path was hopeful. 2 months into the voyage, with the single spirit root's absorption efficiency and the yellow dragon pill, his proficiency visibly increased.
Cultivation technique, Swallowing Fire technique.
Chi refining 2nd level. Progress. 100 to 500. Utility. None. Improvement in magic cultivation. Chun Sansi naturally did not forget the martial arts that were the foundation of his existence, spending most of his time on martial arts training. He took out the Jingshan fruit. The dark red fruit wasn't freshly picked spirit fruit, but had been specially processed. From the outside, it looked more like a dried fruit, incredibly bitter in the mouth. However, for martial artists who had long been used to drinking all kinds of unpleasant supplemental medicines, this was naturally nothing. Chun Sansi swallowed it in one bite, and then with a flash of silver light in his hand, he took the Longdan bright silver spear and began practicing the cultivation technique of the true power realm. Wanting to enter the true power, one must first open the scenic god. Only after opening the Jingshan cave can the gods within the body be activated. As the cultivation technique operated, the Jingshan fruit in his belly refined just like spiritual energy, flowing into his meridians through his limbs before continuously cleansing his body through the meridian cycle. During this process, Chun Sansi truly felt the secrets hidden within the human body. That was, the gods within the flesh. Within the mortal body, there are divine beings, only that, they're the corpses of gods, dead and lifeless. Inside the body, despite the presence of divine power, because they are born into a world filled with mixed energies, these bodily gods are born stillborn, existing yet functionless, until the Jingshan fruit, refined through the meridians, turns into a sweet rain that falls on the lifeless deities within the body. A long drought meets the sweet rain, and so, everything began to have life. Within the body, all of the shrines were no longer corpses, but slumbering divine beings. Opening the scenic god. After this, it's about practicing the cultivation technique, drawing in nature's spiritual energy, and gradually awakening the gods within the body. Within the body, there are the 8 scenic gods of the upper part and 24 true spirits. At the true power early stage, it's about waking up the upper scenic gods. Both in the body's form and the 8 scenic gods, 24 truths emerge naturally. High arch peaceful in action. The soul rests. Serenity reveals the gods speaking to me. Inside the cabin, Chun Sansi held the long spear, day and night without stop, until one moment, in his mind, a vision of a man in white robes suddenly flashed. Brain god. His name is Yuan Zi, also known as Dao Du, about 1 inch and 1/10 in height, dressed in white. Cultivation technique. Dragon scripture, entry level. Progress. 12 out of 100. Utility. None. Who? Among the upper 8 scenic gods, one opens. He only needs to open the remaining 7 scenic gods to truly enter the true power realm. Whether it is magic cultivation or martial cultivation, both are long and endless journeys, often requiring years or even decades of time. Chun Sansi's qualifications in magic cultivation are mediocre, but his speed in martial arts training is already among the top even within the cultivation world. Just look. How many martial saints get completely stuck after stepping into a higher martial arts realm? Like that Wei Xian from Daysfang City who, when young with his partner, was once the first couple of a world, and now at 96 years old with declining chi blood, is still stuck at the peak of the transcendent realm.
No wonder.
It's no surprise that martial cultivators, after seeing the Jingshan fruit, fall into an almost insane state. Compared to magic cultivators, martial cultivators' lifespan in the early stages is almost no different from ordinary people, so they spare no efforts to seize precious possessions. 2 months of travel. Chen Sansi spent 2 months in seclusion. Feeling somewhat stifled, he stowed away the long spear and went out onto the deck to get some fresh air. Just then, the blue bird returned from the east, landing on his arm. Chen Sansi playfully stroked its chin with his finger and asked, "Did you deliver it? She didn't pay attention to you?" The blue bird nodded frantically, gesturing eastward with its wings and chirruping as if it were lodging a complaint. Not long before, Chen Sansi had written a letter that the blue bird delivered to Dongqing, trying to find out the current status of the spirit vein and to advise Dongqing to withdraw the troops if possible. Fight after fight, in the end, it just leads to deaths and drains the people's grain reserves. Chen Sansi was never afraid of battle, but he never wished for it either. Only those who command armies know that no matter how great the victory, countless families will lose hope. Unfortunately, his sister-in-law didn't respond to him. Therefore, there's nothing that can be done. Chen Sansi could only hope for the hostilities to end soon. Chapter 618. Military Immortal versus Master of War _6. In recent years, it could be said that there have been continuous wars. Even the commoners of Liangzhou were struggling to provide the required grain, let alone in other areas. Whether flourishing or perishing, the common people suffered. Old Chen Sansi asked, "What's the situation in Yiling now?" 5 days ago, I received news. Qin Changshu said. After the eastern garrison was defeated in Yiling, they retreated continuously. They were hammered by the soldier immortal Han Xiang from West Qi, to the point of hearing the enemy in the wind and seeing them in every shadow. Now, they've even lost all 28 prefectures of Pingzhou and have fallen back to Jiazhou to temporarily stabilize the situation. Even so, the outlook remains bleak. If this continues, I fear Jiazhou may also be lost within half a year. Heh! I really wonder what the court is thinking. A one-armed old man fishing said. It's clear that the man surnamed Tong is no match. They would rather lose 100,000 troops than ask our supervisor to step in. To counter this military immortal, we need a master of war. Don't say that, old Li. Qin Changshu said. Believe it or not, by the time we return to Liangzhou, we'll likely meet the sacred edict from the court inviting our supervisor to march. Once this battle is fought, they'll realize that the Shang dynasty can't manage without our governor mansion. Then we're really done for, the one-armed old man muttered. If our supervisor had stepped in from the beginning and quelled this chaos, maybe it'd be different. But now that it's escalated to this point, even if the supervisor wins the battle, the court might not be too pleased. What do you mean by that? Qin Changshu asked. What do you mean? Just wait, and you'll see. Dongqing, over 200,000 troops from Qin country amassed at the border, confronting the armies of Beiliang and the eastern garrison. Wearing Qin country's auspicious lion attire, Chun Due staggered to the dragon chair and, lifting his head, mumbled unclearly to the high-seated lady in black, Aunt Fei. The empress paid him no heed, her rouge-red lips perusing the memorials. Fei! Chun Due tugged at her robe. Didn't you hear? The empress, without lifting her head, issued a cold voice. Take the crown prince to play, don't let him bother me. Sister. A young cultivator standing opposite her said, I came to talk to you about the spirit vein, not to help you babysit. Go if I tell you to. The empress intensified her tone. Fine. The cultivator, seemingly quite afraid of the woman, grabbed Chun Due by the back of his neck and then flew away with his sword. Brat, hold on tight. Sister. Gu Xinlan entered the hall from the back door. Are you really going to fight with Daqing again? I heard that Ji and others have reached the border already. Will they call Brother Shi over soon? Sister. Stop bringing this up every day. The empress, dropping the memorials, responded indifferently. I've promised you, no matter what, I'll spare his life. Isn't that enough? Ah? That's not what I meant. Gu Xinlan explained. I'm worried. If Daqing's old emperor really sends Brother Shi over, won't our Qin country suffer great military losses, significantly draining our national strength? Liangzhou, Governor Mansion. The eunuch supervisor, Mr. Ho, accompanied by a group of guards, hastened to the front door of the governor mansion. Bang! 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 He knocked on the gate using the door knocker. Shortly thereafter, housekeeper Wu from the governor mansion opened the door. Well, Mr. Ho, what brings you here in such haste? Oh, dear housekeeper Wu, you've finally opened the door. You've had me worried sick. Mr. Ho, anxious and flustered, said, What's the situation? Has Governor Chun ended his closed-door meditation? Not yet. Housekeeper Wu replied. My governor is still in closed-door meditation. Then, exactly when will it end? There must be a definite date, right? Mr. Ho paced back and forth. The front line is extremely urgent. We absolutely cannot delay any longer. Housekeeper Wu, can't you go and notify Governor Chun? How can one disturb during cultivation? What if it happens at the critical moment of a breakthrough and affects his meridians? Can you bear the responsibility? Housekeeper Wu confidently said. Besides, you all knew the governor was in seclusion. At first, you assuredly and solemnly said you could manage without needing the governor mansion. Plans can't keep up with changes. Mr. Ho, no longer patient, was about to head inside directly. If Housekeeper Wu fears the governor getting angry, I will speak to him myself. Stop. Housekeeper Wu, with a fallen face, said. Mr. Ho, the governor said he wouldn't see anyone. Please go back. In desperation, Mr. Ho leapt into the air, intending to jump over the wall into the governor mansion. Who would have thought? The old housekeeper erupted with gang chi, raised his hand to a palm strike, and a barrage of gang chi burst forth like a jiao long emerging from the sea. Boom! Mr. Ho had no choice but to raise his hands to block, tumbling back to the front of the governor mansion. Eunuch! Housekeeper Wu furiously said. Have you forgotten the rule set down back then? Anyone from the court, without permission, shall not step half a step into the governor mansion. That was the rule with Supervisor Sun, not with Governor Chun. Mr. Ho glared. Moreover, I just wanted to speak a couple of words with Governor Chun. And Housekeeper Wu attacked harshly? Isn't this a bit too much? He felt something was amiss. The closed-door meditation had already lasted over half a year. A martial arts practitioner is not a cultivator. Showing up occasionally should still be possible. Could it be? Chen Sansi wasn't actually inside the mansion? As the military supervisor, he inherently had the duty to oversee officials in Liangzhou. Enough talk, Housekeeper Wu coldly said. Today, you all shall not step half a step into the governor mansion. You! Just as Mr. Ho was about to retort, he heard a robust voice sound. Uncle Wu, who are you fighting with again? You need to temper your temper. Chen Sansi emerged from the gate in a white robe. Mr. Ho? What is happening here? Governor Chan? You finally decided to show yourself. Mr. Ho instantly cast all his concerns to the wind. There is an order. The Ministry of War has reassigned you to go to Jiazhou to command the lead army on the Western expedition against the Immortal. Chapter 619. A worthy opponent. Announce. Champion Marquis, General of Cavalry, Bailiang Governor, Main General of Hengze Camp, Chen Sansi, head to Jiazhou to take command and must recover the 2 western states within a year. Depart immediately without delay. Mr. Ho's loud voice echoed. I accept the order. Chen Sansi took the deployment order. Then, Governor, please set off quickly. Mr. Ho sighed with relief. Now, all the frontline soldiers are inside Cloud Top Prefecture, waiting for you to take charge of the overall situation. After repeatedly instructing him, he then led people away. Tui! Housekeeper Wu spat fiercely at their leaving figures. A bunch of incompetents. Everything depends on the governor mansion, yet they still harbor suspicions. They were like this with the old governor before, and now they are the same with the young master. Enough, Uncle Wu. Chen Sansi looked at the housekeeper, aged over 70. It is not purely for the court. As soon as I returned, I saw the state affairs handled during this period. Many places are running out of grain, aren't they? If we don't end the war situation quickly, we really won't be able to hold on. After the court collapsed, the ancestor vein was lost. Various sects poured in. Everyone had no good days ahead. Exactly. Housekeeper Wu shook his head and sighed. From 10 days in Yunzhou, we have been fighting continuously for 3 or 4 years now, and there have been floods and droughts in many places. Where is there much grain left? Chen Sansi handed the deployment order to a servant. My fear is that this battle will not be quick. Oh, Housekeeper Wu, surprised, said. You mean, Governor, that even you are not sure about quickly repelling the West Qi army? In this world, there has never been anyone predestined to win every battle. Chen Sansi gazed into the distance. It's just that previously, every time I won. Uncle Wu, prepare yourself. Tonight, I will set out on my journey. All right. Chen Sansi and Sun Li, Chen Yunqi met hurriedly and parted hurriedly. Then he headed straight for the military camp, summoning the fully recuperated soldiers of the Hengze camp, and departed from Liangzhou by night. As they reached the city gates, another horseman caught up with them, holding a long spear, with a bow and arrows slung on his back. Buji. Chen Sansi was somewhat surprised. What are you doing? Governor. Sun Buki clasped his fists. I have achieved Meridian Passage. Please allow me to join the camp. Buji. Chen Sansi looked at him, his voice grave. Hengze camp's roster is full. There is no position of Meridian Passage General for you. Go back and stay with your sister and Chen Yunqi. Governor, I don't want a position. Sun Buki insisted. Even being an ordinary soldier will do. Let me go with you. Chen Sansi knew. Since his master had passed away, Sun Buki rarely showed his face and had almost completely cut off contact with his old friends. Every day, apart from eating, he practiced martial arts in the courtyard. His constitution was not exceptional, just superior, but he had an excellent grasp of things. In just half a year, he had also broken through from the Huajin to the Meridian Passage realm. However, the journey ahead was perilous, and he was the sole heir to the Sun family. Enough said. A person's life is their own to decide. Thinking this, Chun Sansi did not refuse. Join the ranks, you will be assigned to the Central Army, temporarily responsible for patrolling the camp until we reach Jiazhou, after which we will make further arrangements. Yes. Sun Buki did not utter any useless words and merged with the troop on horseback. Hongzhe camp continued to move forward. What a ridiculous military immortal, Wang Ji grumbled. Before the defeat at Yiling, if they had transferred you to us, none of this would have happened. The brother saw it too. In Chun Sansi's mind played the post-battle marching routes of both enemies and allies. After Yiling, we've retreated too much on the front line. It's not easy to push back now. Brother, you're underestimating me. Before I met you in Piyang County, I was the main general of Xuanwu camp. I've participated in many major and minor battles. How could I possibly not understand the situation? Wang Ji worriedly said. It seems Han Xiang really has some skills. Plus West Qi has quite a few immortal masters. It's likely to get troublesome from here on. Brother, how is your realm? Chun Sansi asked. Great perfection. Wang Ji sat on the back of a black wind horse, pulled out a flask from his chest and took a small sip. Give me another 2 years, and I might have a chance to break through to Martial Saint. 5 months. Chun Sansi indifferently said. I'll speed it up for you. Hongzhe camp set out from Liangzhou towards Jiazhou, needing to head south from Ming State, then eastward, crossing over the land of 2 states by water and land. A journey taking a total of 3 months. On the way, Chun Sansi often stopped to practice martial arts and perform alchemy. He had prepared extra amounts of elixir pills and true martial pills for his subordinates. Martial Saint required an extremely high physical condition, and even the true martial pill only had a 1% chance of allowing someone with insufficient physical constitution to break through to the Martial Saint realm, but relative to the mysterious phenomenon, there was no such high threshold. As long as there were enough elixir pills, it was entirely possible to stack Meridian Passage up to mysterious phenomenon. During the march, Chun Sansi performed alchemy 4 times, scrapped 1 batch and produced 3 superior true martial pills, and threw 1 directly to Wang Ji. More martial saints in the group meant a better chance of victory when facing cultivators. Hey, you sure treasure these a lot. Wang Ji held the elixir, feeling somewhat emotional. Who could have imagined? He had initially gone in despondence to a remote little county like a defeated dog, and by a twist of fate, met the greatest benefactor of his life. Governor. Xiaozong hurried back with a squad of troops. We have already reached Jiazhou territory, and I have informed the governor's army to come and meet us. What's the situation? Chun Sansi asked urgently. It's critical. Xiaozong pointed westward. 200 miles from here is the boundary of Jiazhou's Luo River, and across the Luo River is Cloud Top Prefecture. Right now, the West Qi army is attacking Cloud Top Prefecture, and General Teng Lu and others, leading 50,000 troops, are struggling to hold on. Chapter 620. A worthy opponent _2. Let's head to the military camp first. Chun Sansi wasn't in a hurry to deploy. Yes. West Qi Kingdom military camp. Central Army tent. On the writing desk, Han Xiang held a brush in his hand, tracing intricate patterns on an orange-yellow piece of paper. The brush was made from spiritual beast hair. Even the handle was crafted from refined spirit wood. The paper beneath was a rare blend of materials mixed with animal hide. Combining the two, one could draw the legendary talismans. With a flash of spirit light, it signified the successful completion of the clone talisman. Gomein. Han Xiang put down the talisman pen and spoke indifferently. Immortal Master. Zhong Wuxin strode into the tent, his expression grave as he spoke. The Shang dynasty has ultimately run out of options and has chosen to call upon the white-robed Chun Sansi from Liangzhou. We've just received news that the white-robed, leading 15,000 troops from Hongzhe camp, has arrived within the territory of Huangpi Prefecture in Jiazhou. Good. Han Xiang's eyes gleamed with a cold light. I knew for sure that he would come. Immortal Master. Zhong Wuxin truly couldn't comprehend the other's thinking. Wasn't the arrival of a strong opponent a bad thing? Why was this Immortal Master getting more and more excited? It was as if he saw the entire war as a game. He solemnly reminded that Chan has profound understanding in military strategy, and he brought with him the battle-hardened tiger and wolf troops of Hongzhe camp to Jiazhou. Who knows what kind of clever strategy he will use next? How should we proceed with arrangements? Send out the orders. Han Xiang said calmly. Continue to move the troops, making a posture as if we will fiercely attack Cloud Top Prefecture. The Immortal Master means. Zhong Wuxin contemplated and then spoke. To force Chan to lead his army across the river for support? When a fellow chess player arrives, one must prepare a good game in advance as a welcome. Han Xiang moved away from the desk to a nearby chessboard and sat down, speaking leisurely. At such a young age, he managed to conduct a battle crossing 4 times. I want to see what kind of surprises he can bring to me. Having said that, he waved his finger like a sword, infusing mana into the talisman paper on the desk. Immediately, the talisman paper transformed into a beam of light that soared into the sky, heading straight toward the eastern heavens. There lay Huangpi Prefecture where Hongzhe camp was located. Huangpi Prefecture. Wum. The heavy city gates opened. A haggard-looking Tong Xiaochu hurriedly walked out of the city to welcome them, emotionally grabbing the white-robed arm with a trembling voice. Chan Dusher, you've finally come. Hurry. Everyone is waiting for you to take charge. Chun Sansi followed him to the central army tent. Apart from the generals of the supervisor's army, there was also a young cultivator who, through qi observation skill, was clearly at the qi refining perfect realm, nearly identical in strength to Chu Yuanxiang from Liangzhou, roughly around the 11th layer of qi refining. The qi refinement realm has a total of 9 levels, with the 7th to 9th levels considered the late stage of qi refining. Cultivating a cultivation technique to the 9th level enables foundation establishment, but it doesn't imply the technique has only 9 levels. There are in fact 12 levels in total. If they could not acquire a foundation establishment pill or did not feel confident enough, these cultivators would choose to continue their training and wait for the right moment to establish their foundation. With each additional level of the cultivation technique, one's mana also becomes deeper. This is Immortal Master Wang Jun, Tong Xiaochu introduced. He was sent by His Majesty from the capital city to support us. There is also Master Chu Yuanxiang, who is currently with Teng Lu in Cloud Top Prefecture. Thanks to them, the enemy's immortal masters no longer dare to casually invade the camp to assassinate military officers. You are Chun Sansi? The meditating Wang Jun opened his eyes and measured Chun Sansi up and down before speaking. Can you turn the tide of the battle? They from Shengyun sect had dispatched disciples this time, because they sought the spirit vein. However, to secure spirit vein one needs manpower. That's why the great war among 4 nations had erupted. But Wang Jun, a single cultivator, knew nothing about arranging troops and waging war. He could only watch helplessly as the Shang army was routed again and again, with the prospects of seizing the spirit vein growing ever more distant. Moreover, the name he heard most often was White Robe. It was as if in this part of the world, this person was the first in military strategy, and it seemed he was also the closed-door disciple of the Guardian Sun Xiangzong. This made Wang Jun pay a little more attention. He urged, hurry up and make a move on Mang Mountain. If the enemy sect stabilizes its foothold, not only you, the commander, but even the great Shang court will face severe censure from the upper sect. The map. Chun Sansi ignored the pressure the other was exerting and, after taking the main seat, got straight to the point. I need more detailed information, including the military strength of both sides, and the number of immortal masters on each side. Tong Xiaochu seemed to find it difficult to speak. After hesitating for a moment, he said, after the defeat at Yiling, our supervisor's army has been retreating eastward, incurring the loss of 180,000 troops and countless burning of grain and fodder. After arriving at Cloud Top Prefecture, West Qi kept up its fierce attacks, so I left Teng Lu and others to hold the fort, while the rest of us withdrew to the east of Luo River to reorganize our forces. Now, more than half of the military forces of the commanding department from the western part have arrived in Jiazhou for support. Together with the troops you've brought from Hengze camp, we also have 170,000 troops, with 50,000 in Cloud Top Prefecture. As for the aspect of immortal masters, I'm not quite sure. Please let Immortal Master Wang Jun inform you. In the West Qi army, there are 5 middle stage of qi refining and 1 late stage of qi refining, including the so-called military immortal Han Xiang who, like me, is roughly in the perfect realm around the 11th layer of qi refining. Wang Jun clarified, inside our supervisor's army, there are also 2 middle stage of qi refining, plus me and Chu Yuanxiang, making it a total of 4. Chun Sansi weighed the situation in his mind. On paper, West Qi Kingdom possesses an army of 320,000, plus 7 cultivators in the middle stage of qi refining or above. The middle stage of qi refining is equivalent to the strength of a martial saint.